Let's see. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Oh my god. Let's see what is up to Mr.
It's the
Wick.
problem. I think your brain turns off after I say a few words, and you think of what you want to say to me instead of listening to what I'm actually advocating for. That's my frustration, not just with you, to be clear, but with a lot of these people here. Like Gavin Newsom
My frustration
is great.
is that I
think
am
what
listening to you. I'm saying your prescription is
You won't even let me
completely
finish.
off and wrong.
You don't. I haven't gotten to my prescription yet. I haven't gotten to what
I've been hearing
saying.
it for the last. I've been hearing this whole conversation.
Hold on, Gavin Newsom. I have no problem with what he's doing. Meme away, fight him on there on the gerrymandering thing. Great, but what you are advocating for is above and beyond what he's doing. You're advocating for taking away people's right to vote.
Time.
It's listen.
time.
It's no different than my firearm example is the strongest one I can give. We have obvious restrictions on firearms.
My words can't kill you.
Wick, I gotta agree with them.
It's not really that strong.
My words cannot
As a
kill
strong
you, dude.
moral conservative, when he says, "I want to make sure that the degenerates aren't able to shout their degeneracy with pride in the streets," I'm listening.
My
Tell me more.
words. How many
Well, how
people
should
are
we
watching
enshrine
this?
that in law?
79 people, really?
I mean, again, like if you're looking for exact specifics, shit, I don't know. These are just my feelings. I'd have to sit down and write them out and actually balance it out on what could work within the vast majority of the confines of the law. But there needs to be
please accept my feelings.
Is taste. I guess that's the easiest way to.
Oh my god! Please accept my feelings.
Different taste, though, right? We have
yes, but there's a large pool. There's a large pool of acceptable taste. Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's right. No degeneracy. Let's keep going.
All right.
You want to change the First Amendment, right?
Guys know who Rabbit is. It's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Well, I believe we're due. Yes. And the reason is I'm not saying this with pride or that I'm happy about it. I'm actually furious that I've come to this conclusion that we need to alter it.
Yes.
But the reason
we've been here for 40 years. Come on. Join us.
Sorry?
Join us on the conservative side. I'm with you.
No, because
let's end degeneracy in the streets.
Because all of you on that side can't spot an obvious con man when you see one.
That's I don't think that's exactly true.
I mean,
guess question caller person.
That's true. You don't
I'll take the tally stance and say we saw the con man in Trump and said we don't give a fuck because the other side's fucking up so bad.
You know, you don't have any. People have been trying to convince us that oranges are apples for like 20 years.
I mean, you can say I have no principle, but I feel that I'm strong in my belief that if the other side's fucking up so badly, I'm not going to give them another chance to.
There is zero evidence.
Who are these people? I swear to God. Who are these people? I don't recognize any of them. Not even a single one. To be fair, a lot of people would not recognize me, so. How is my one viewer that is here with me today? Let me advertise to the President Sunday nerds. Because I'm gonna bash President Sunday today, so. So it's time. Okay. Okay. It's time, okay? There you go. It is time, yes, it is time. I've gotten that $1 or whatever subscription. And oof. Oof. Oh yeah. Conrad, I have to somehow persuade you to play the original Final Fantasy VII. So I'm gonna show you a little video. That shows gameplay. There you go. This video shows the boss theme of original FF7 and gameplay. Some of the gameplay. The gameplay from you know, various bosses in FF7. I'm gonna show you the Midgar section so that you can compare them to the remake. No, Steam is fine. For original FF7, yeah, Steam is fine. You can always emulate it on the PlayStation. Hello. See, you're fighting Reno here. Who wants to collapse the plate. Oh, and Red Preteen was a character that you could control in the original game. For some reason, in the remake, they decided, oh nope, you cannot control this character. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, you could do it on the PS4. Kyou no aite wa koko made da. Tatakau Maho item. Yeah, I was pissed you cannot play him, even though I didn't know he was playable in the original. Yeah, oh yeah, he was. They've made some characters unplayable in the Rebirth as well, as from what I know. My favorite character in the entire game is unplayable in Rebirth. Yeah, it's a good game. Good game, Final Fantasy VII. Oh, Final Fantasy VI is good as well, by the way. You should play Final Fantasy VI as well. Mate yo! こいつは思い出したぜ。知ってるのか?俺たちと同じ力を感じる。あなた方は誰？お前たちはラムーの力を？俺たちはネット。FF9 is, I think, my favorite Final Fantasy game. It's really good. We were definitely going to play it on stream. It's a really good game. Risaga. This Final Fantasy VI was very good as well. And very nice soundtrack as well. The good old NES Super Nintendo soundtrack. We have to talk about... I've been screamed at by fake Alec Hal Parker. We have to talk about Mr. R.F. Kennedy. Okay? We have to talk about making America healthy again. Oh, really? Sekiro's getting an anime? Huh. Interesting. Oh, Speak of the Devil, official trailer, Sekiro. No defeat. It's here. On the... You can see it in the upper right corner. Here. Crunchyroll. I wonder if it's an official Crunchyroll YouTube, so technically speaking, I should be able to play this trailer and not have the stream demonetized, right? Right? Zelensky's trump card. The secret win from his high-stakes meeting. Oh, I want to see Zelensky's trump card. I want to see the reading in the leaves.
Now that the smoke is cleared and the dust is...
The reading in the leaves. We really are entering the USSR period of politics, okay? We really are entering that period when we don't have any concrete information, but we are getting the super secret feels over reels. We read the behavior of every single person involved and we derive what it means. Also, remember when we covered the whole meeting between Zelensky, Trump, and European leaders? I missed it, but there was a part sort of before the meeting proper when Trump is caught on microphone saying, I think Putin wants to make a deal for me, even though it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy to say, but I think he wants to do it for me. He just wants this deal for me, me. Vladimir Solovyov denies he ever mocked Trump. Me? Never. Alexander Gurnov named Putin's victories in the Alaska summit. Metal Gear Solid 4 is a glorious mess. I think Metal Gear Solid 4 might be unavailable on Steam, which is a shame. I would like to play it. I would like to play it. 10 great JRPGs the critics were totally wrong about. Okay, let's start this stream off with this. My favorite pastime is looking at those lists. And then, when some President Sunday nerds come, we're gonna bash President Sunday, and then we're gonna move to politics. How's that sound for the plan for this stream?
Have you ever played a game that you loved only to learn that it got terrible reviews?
Yes, many times in my life I've played a game that I liked, and especially Polish media bashed it to no end. Like Suikoden. the Polish media bashed Suikoden.
To me with quite a few games, and it blew my mind. Like, how could these games that I loved so much get so badly reviewed? Well, in this video, I'll be sharing 10 other great JRPGs that were really poorly reviewed. Also, if you enjoy JRPGs and want to stay up to date,
this looks pretty good, by the way.
Latest news, reviews, and other fun videos just like this, then be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. So to start off, we have Harvestella, which has a Metacritic score of 73. Now, that's not that bad, all things...
It's actually pretty good. Don't be a whiner, okay? 73 is a pretty good score. I only played Metal Gear Solid 5, which was surprised, kind of hated by the community. I think Kojima only worked on for a while and then not, or something like that. Hideo Kojima was screwed over during the production of Metal Gear Solid 5 and left, or was fired. Fired/left. He was very abused during the process of making that game. Konami turned into a shitty company during that. And then it quit video games and decided to do slot machines at gambling venues. What a time.
Considered, but considering how beloved
Konami went from one of the best gaming companies to a non-gaming company.
This game is, it seems kind of low. Like, pretty much anyone I talk to just can't shut up about this game. Like, all my fellow JRPG creator friends love this game, talk about it all the time. It's kind of like
play
their
this
version
game
of like me with Sakura Wars and Tokyo Xanadu. Now, I haven't actually finished the game. I did play the demo, which was really rough. There were some cool things about it, but apparently they adjusted a lot from the demo, like how long time goes on the world map and stuff like that. But after they adjusted it, apparently people really loved it. Now, why was it reviewed so poorly? Well, it was pretty much a Switch exclusive. I think it's also on PC. It scored really low for its visuals and performance on Switch, and it also had some pretty stiff combat, and it wasn't as much
Chrono Trigger is good
as people were expecting.
Wait for a Square Enix
it
discount.
A little budget, kind of like a AA game. But what makes it great? Why should this game be more beloved? Well, the story is really interesting. There's this plague called the Quietus that's destroying crops. You've lost your memory, and you're regaining your memories, and as you regain your memories and peel back the layers of the story, it's really, really compelling. And also there's an unexpected twist that I'm not going to ruin here, that every time I hear about it, I'm like, that's what this game's about? That's interesting. And while the actual like graphical fidelity of the game isn't great, the actual art style is incredible.
It's
Just
pretty
walking
good.
around the world, the environments, the character designs, they look really great. And the character portrait art, I love. I really love that kind of painterly art style. It looks incredible. There's also a lot of variety in combat. Like, you can choose different classes. They all unlock throughout the game. There's a really cool upgrade system. There's a large variety of environments, and
looks pretty
overall,
good,
the
this
gameplay
game.
loop is just fun. And for someone that hasn't played this game, I should take my friend's advice and actually start playing it. Now, when Tales of Exilia 2 came out, the scores made a lot of sense. But as time goes on and I look at the Tales series as a whole, it seems pretty low to me.
Tales of Exilia 2.
Well, this game was infamous for reusing a lot of assets. Obviously, it's a sequel, so
this is the game that you commit several genocides and you're rewarded for it.
There's not a ton of new environments. There are some, but overall,
the story in this game is whack.
Knock a game out as quickly as possible. Also,
you erased whole alternative worlds.
The Tales series, and that's locked until you beat the game. Like, once you beat the game, the character does get a VO, but it's kind of an annoying way to do that. Like, once you beat the game and you figure out what's going on, you understand it, but I felt like it was done a little bit clunky. Also, it's annoying how they gate off the story. Like, the main character you play, Luger, has a medical bill that he needs to pay off, and so the game gates off progress in the story until you pay off certain payments. To me, that just kind of felt like bad design. But why is it great? Why should it be more beloved? Well, it has one of the best twists in a Tales game. Like I said, it's told a bit clunkily, but once you see it, it's really interesting and really fantastic.
No,
it
it's
also has
not.
Some of my favorite characters in the entire series. I mean, Alvin, he's kind of your Han Solo-esque character. He's very charming, witty, funny. But also you have this character, Elle. The whole thing is you're trying to help her find
If you want to have those cool characters, then just play the first Tales of Exilia.
her father, and she's just so cute, and she is like trying to do her best, and you can't help but love her. She's got such an adorable design. I really loved her as a character, and it might be the best iteration of the Tales action combat system. The main character,
no,
Luger,
I disagree.
can swap between different weapons on the fly, which is so fun to just swap between. It feels really good. I mean, he also has this meter that he can build up, and he can transform. He's kind of like he's going Super Saiyan, and he does tons of damage. It's just really fun to play this game. Not to mention multiple endings that were very very memorable. I was kind of shocked at how some of the endings ended. So I hope that
endings
when they
ended.
do the Exilia remaster, that maybe they do a collection with both games, because Exilia 2 definitely deserves some love. Now, when Eternites came out, I loved it. I was one of the biggest champions.
I have no clue what this game is.
I got to preview it, I reviewed it, and I got the chance to put mine out on embargo day with everyone else's. Another one that really shocked me when I saw the scores and the responses that people had to this game is Rune Factory 5. Now, this is also a game that I reviewed on embargo day, so
I never played any Rune Factory
scores. Now, another game that was reviewed low that I can kind of get is Star Ocean: The Divine Force, currently sitting at a 68 Metacritic score. Now, this game was ambitious, but it didn't always hit what it was going for. And
I have to play this.
I saw why it was scored low was it felt old, like it was very... Now, the scores for Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin straight up
maybe I'll play this.
With some of the scores time. Now, for Atelier Rorona, I have a lot of fond memories of this game. I remember when I first...
I am very skeptical of the Atelier series. I have only played the PlayStation 2 Atelier game, but you know what? I'm skeptical.
Now, Wild Arms XF, aka Wild Arms Crossfire, is a game that I never played, which is a little surprising.
It looks like crap.
I was really into the PSP
oh my
back
god,
in the day.
It looks like crap. It looks bad. Yeah. I think people think that when they like a title, it needs to be a 90 or something every single time. People are very attached to what they like, and there's ego involved. If I like a game, then it needs to be an 80 or 90 at least.
Now, for the Diofield Chronicle, I kind of get it, why it scored so low, but personally, I really loved it, so I'm going to go to bat for it.
Never heard of this game.
All right, last up on this list is a game you probably haven't heard of.
I finished this game, I think, on the PlayStation 1. I never expected this game to be on the list. I finished this game. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you start with a character, and then you continue with the protagonist's son, etc. You go from one generation to the other.
In Valor. It was a very obscure PS1 JRPG back in the day, but back in like 2010, 2011, I was really into collecting every PlayStation 1 JRPG. So as I was going through them, I booted this one up, like, I had never heard of this, let me just see what it's all about. And I was really surprised at how much fun I had it, and I was really surprised to see how low it scored. Right now, it's got a 57 Metacritic. That's kind of ridiculous for how much fun I had.
I think it deserves a bit more.
But people scored it low because it was pretty short. Like on How Long to Beat, it says it's about 7 to 8 hours. They said the story was kind of bland and it's not that visually impressive. Now, you have to remember, like, put yourself back in the day and age when this came out. This was after games like Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII came out, so all other games were going to be compared to that, whether that's fair or not. And this was the first 3D generation, so a lot of the games with like poor 3D character models kind of got judged harshly. But why is this game great? Well, to me, what this game felt like was, imagine if Ys was a PlayStation 1 game, and that's what it is. It's like a fun hack and slash action combat game with some platforming. And I actually thought the story was kind of interesting. It's sort of this lineage story where like you play as a character for like a little while, and then
people have a very
the next character's
specific way of viewing scores.
I'm like, that's kind of cool, and especially in an era where we have games like Romancing Saga 2, where that's a big part of that game. I feel like players now would enjoy it way more than maybe back in the day. Now, honestly, don't get me wrong, it's not gonna like blow you away. It's not like this amazing hidden gem that's gonna be one of your favorite games of all time, but I feel like it's way better than a 57. Like, that seems ridiculous to me. Again, as I was playing through the catalog of PlayStation 1 RPGs, I just remember that one really standing out and thinking, that's really unique, and I'm kind of surprised I never heard about it before, and I was really surprised that
But yes, I finished Dragon Valor. It was pretty fun. It's pretty fun, and you know, Final Fantasy VII Remake betrayed us. Jeb. Who's Jeb? Oof. The bullshit just feeds the incel machine. What is Wick up to? Oh my god. What is happening with the horseman? Oh, also like this stream. It apparently makes people want to This bullshit just
This one
feeds
like
the
improved my
incel
day
machine.
so much.
The incel machine.
What's your age?
36.
Are you single?
Yeah, I am.
What's it like dating women in New York?
It's great, man. The women in New York are there's a large variety. There's people from all over the world, super ambitious. If you're looking for like a high quality woman, this is the place to find them.
So would you say it's easier to date women in a big city like New York, or do people have a better shot in the smaller cities?
No, I think this is the place to do it because you got a lot of ambitious women that are super successful, that are career oriented, smart, beautiful, and I mean, you got a variety of women from all over the world.
But when you meet a woman who is career oriented and super successful, does that make it easier for you to date her?
Yeah, I think so.
How come?
She
thinks she's more of a man than you?
Prioritizes her own success, so she obviously thinks intelligently about her future. So I think she would include you in that thought process.
But do you think that those women are okay dating men below them in their tax bracket, or do they want the guy who is at least making the same amount of money or more?
Do you really talk like that all the time, or is that like a voice for the interview? There's no fucking way.
It's however you make it.
No, dude. There's no way when you're talking to your homie behind the camera that's your voice. Wait, are you gonna break character? Wait, what was the question again?
Do you think
say it in your real voice, not in the...
That is my real voice.
No, there's no way that's your real voice. That's like a Bane character for Batman or some shit. Come on, bro. Say it in your real voice and I...
Oh my god. Hello, Greater Rain. We're watching some strange material.
Answer the question.
Do you think...
Come on, no.
Do you think...
Yo, you guys are with me.
Do you think?
Shit.
Do you think...
I'm sorry, man. It's cool.
Do you think that high value woman, do you think that top earning woman...
Whenever he was trying to start back there, you can actually hear him like doing his regular voice for a second before he slips back into it. Like he's getting, it takes him like some concentration to keep in the voice, you know?
Are interested in dating men who are making less than them.
I need to have a good Bane impression.
Yeah, I mean, I think money shouldn't matter if you connect with somebody.
It's just fun. This is just one of those like incel accounts, you know, like those rage bait men going their own ways. You know, did you know that women suck ass? Accounts is just really funny.
I think that's inappropriate to be talking about sucking ass on YouTube.
Guy.
What's your age?
32.
Are you single?
I am.
Let's say you were making $100,000 a year. How much would you want your man to bring to the relationship?
At least the same as me. Either 100,000 or more. If I'm making 100K, he should make 100K or more.
Why not less?
Just because I just feel like as a woman, I'm very like traditional. I have old school values.
Indian.
So I feel like as a
Why Indian?
It's you when you want to make this like rage bait content for incels, you have to find women like this, traditional, wearing slim dress, tits out, pumps or like high heels, toes exposed. That's a big no-no. Who's gonna, you know, give you some like hypocritical jargon about how men are supposed to be the breadwinners or whatever. How much does this one have? 43. Oh, we came in early on this one.
woman, if I'm making that amount of money, you should at least be making that amount of money.
So would you choose a family over your career or your career over your family, being traditional?
I would choose family over career for sure. But I can't choose family if I'm the one making all the money. Mommy, I gotta make it.
So you want your man to pay for hair, nails, makeup.
But isn't that traditional though? Yeah, well the premise of this rage bait, right, is you have guys who are unpleasable because they hate traditional women. They hate the idea that they think it's hypocritical that they have to be the breadwinners, but they also hate women who have the autonomy and kind of like independence to run relationships themselves. They don't like equality and they don't like it when the women make more, but they hate the idea that a woman might expect you to make more. So they're always unhappy. Like there's no situation in which they wouldn't be unhappy. Except for, like, the only theoretical situation that I can think of that people who enjoy this kind of content would actually go for is a woman who...
I'll take Alec Parker. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for more people to come in to... Why are we watching Vosh? Because I'm waiting for more people to come in to start actual topics. Actual topics being RFK Jr. and Trump hating museums. Trump hating museums will be a whole segment. I am making a segment out of it. The museum hatred. Because you pissed me off. What? What happened, fake Alec Cal Parker? Vosh is not real. Oh. Rod Vosh is not a real guy as well, by the way. Vosh seems to like covering stuff pertaining to men, culture, and dating. I guess. He used to be a debate guy. My editor is my hate watcher.
Makes a lot of money.
I have to accept that.
But says, like, I would be willing to trade it all for a good husband, even if he made much less than me. Which is like a ludicrous, like a woman with a very successful career who's like, no. The first like loser, sweaty incel who knocks me up, I would trade it all just for that guy and the family that we would have together. That's like the one line that they would go for. You know?
Mute tab.
Dinners, groceries, whole 9 yards.
I don't need that. So I own my own house. I take care of all my own stuff. I just feel like
Vosh, you're so right about all rich people with taste, but buy old property. Jesus. Which guy? You hate how which guy talks. Final Fantasy VII is officially dead. I would so watch some Final Fantasy VII remake hate content. Vosh? Well, you know. It happens. Unfortunately.
like for a man to come into my life, I would prefer that he's already established, just like me, because I make money and I take care of myself. So I don't expect him to take care of like all of those things, but I definitely expect him to take care of himself and bring.
Well, that seems fair to me. I like this guy's.
PS2 hidden gems. Zone of Enders. If nobody has heard of Zone of Enders, then you're missing out. Loner box. You introduced to a big number of not real people already. Yeah? Okay, who are the non-real people that I've introduced you to? Masterful JRPG storytelling. I think Persona 5 is gonna be here. Or any Persona. But of course, they're not gonna... If Xenogears is not on this list, then I don't wanna even engage in it. A list of RPGs with good story that does not include Xenogears is not a list that is worth even considering. Ben. Could Trump's masterstroke end the Russia-Ukraine war? Oh, come on, Ben. Masterstroke? Masterstroke? My son's a Nazi. I haven't missed much yet. We're just browsing. Final Fantasy Rebirth failed. Zelensky's smartest move yet. We'll see. I don't think it's such a success story, to be quite honest. Everybody says that it was a huge success, but I don't think so, actually. I saw it as much of a nothing burger than...
is settled, a day after the meeting in Washington. What do we know about what happened yesterday, and did it have an effect on Alaska?
Now I see why people are so overexcited over nothing. People just eat up scraps, in my opinion. Maybe I became so cynical that I became over cynical, but I just don't see the meeting of European leaders and the US as such a great win for Ukraine, as people say. That the US is participating in security guarantees. It's all meaningless unless, first of all, it's meaningless unless a truth happens. So let's not get overexcited. Like, let's not get overexcited about security guarantees during a peace that has not even happened yet. I said over cynical, not just cynical. So you haven't cracked it. I cracked it, but you haven't.
So Politico calls it a bad day for Putin. I like the sound of that. It seems like it unwound some of the negative stuff that came out of.
I think there's a saying about it in Polish, something about, dividing the skin of on a bear before it's even hunted.
Of the Alaska summit.
They said I was being cynical, and I said over cynical. Those are different things. Where can you play Xenogears? PlayStation 1. So I suppose you can play it on the PlayStation 4. You can get it on the PS4. Or you can just emulate it. There's a mod for Xenogears where you can play it in the HD. Yeah, I watched a little bit of Vosh. And fake Alec Cal Parker became my hate watcher. Oh. Maybe.
With Putin. Trump's statement supporting U.S. participation in Ukraine's security guarantees marked the biggest breakthrough of the White House meeting. Until now, Washington left that role to Europe. Okay.
Yeah, they still say that they leave that role to Europe. They say that maybe they will support Europe in that. But people really, there's a lot of sense of desperation here. That people jump on this very half-assed, very begrudgingly stated, we will support Europe in these security guarantees.
So this is where
I guess it does.
We're going to start.
Yeah, fake Alec. My editor is my hate watcher.
It looks like Zelensky had the better end of this deal. Of course, they.
That's rough.
They left unsaid these swaps. They didn't really get into or talk about that. Trump did bring some of this up, but the other European leaders left that alone for now. They said, Trump, you're so dreamy, and thank you for being there and doing it. This is all because of you. And
also, Trump had the leader of Finland right before his nose with a name card in front of him and was like, where's the leader of Finland? Where's the leader of Finland? I'm here. Oh, you're here.
And we need security guarantees. And they, to a man, said, praised Trump and then said, we need security guarantees. Like that's kind of what was going around. Meanwhile, Trump was saying that Zelensky should show flexibility on territorial compromises and added that Ukraine will get a lot of land, that NATO membership was always unacceptable to Russia, and he ruled out sending U.S. troops. He also called Russia a powerful military state, whether people like it or not. Okay.
Also, Trump said that Trump went on to talk with Putin alone because he said that if he talked to Putin in front of all these people, it would be very disrespectful towards Putin.
Okay. In spite of that, it wasn't that bad for Ukraine. Darth Putin.
Oh, so it now goes from it was great for Ukraine to it wasn't all that bad for Ukraine.
posted this after Trump's tweet about, well, the day before going into this. At this stage, no one would be surprised if Donald pasted the original Russian text into his tweets. It does feel like that, right? And it feels like that because, well, it's like Putin was in.
Okay, enough. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ Almighty, we're gonna be talking about these things. Soon we're gonna be talking about these things because I don't know. Final Fantasy XIV in trouble? Uh-oh. I might have to try and play Final Fantasy XIV until I can.
Square Enix Q1 2025 financial report shows a really sharp decline in particularly the MMO division, with FF14 after the launch of Dawntrail. MMO gross sales decreased by 2.9 billion yen by 23%. Operational
I think it's because the main storyline for Final Fantasy XIV has concluded, and they started a brand new storyline, and many people fell off. Many people finished the storyline that was from the beginning of Final Fantasy XIV to Endwalker, and then they didn't like that. It just started fresh, started a whole new story.
Profits are down 45%. Fuck. Yeah, I mean, I think we all know exactly why. Dawntrail is dog poo. It's rubbish. It's crap. Wu Clamart is not actually the worst character in the world. It's just that she should not be the main character. It'd be like making Steve Carell the main character of Anchorman. You know what I mean? He works best as like this guy who every now and again hops in and does or says something really funny. That's kind of how Wu Clamart should function. Making her the main character so much just really wore out her welcome like crazy, and they didn't really take the hint that players didn't like this character, because she then keeps popping up in like the, what is it, the post-patch, post-expansion content and all that. And Sphene! Yeah, why not? Why not? Because people really love Sphene as well. Let's have even more of her. Also, Endwalker ended the story. The MSQ.
Yeah, see, like, they started a whole new storyline.
It's over. It's finished. It's literally called Endwalker. And anyone who says that, like, oh, Dawntrail's setting up this new story, again, like, look, it's not 2013 anymore. There's other MMOs. There's other games to play. There's so many more options. There's better things to do with your life than play Dawntrail in 2025.
I mean, there were many options in 2013. There were always many games. Like, I don't know. 2025 is not some super exceptional time for games.
Anyway, let's keep reading. Square Enix shareholder Yuzu writes that something must be done for FF14 to regain its popularity and user base. Or
maybe they should just make a new game that's not plagued with all the problems that Final Fantasy XIV is. It's made on a spaghetti code that was, well, first of all, it all started with Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, which was a giant mess, and then they had to nuke Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 and rebuild it from scratch on a new engine, but it was still plagued with many problems, spaghetti code issues, and things that have simply plagued the game from day one, and I believe plagued the game to this day. So they should just start a new game without all these limitations.
Important pillar to the company's HD game sales. He writes that the current increase in stock prices due to the activist funding is inflated and not an accurate reflection of company health. Well, something must be done for 14 to regain its popularity. I think it's over. I think it's done. The thing is, right, if you can put FF11 on life support, you know, keep it alive on its servers and still charge people and make money from that, which it does, why can't you do this with 14? People are still gonna be on it and sub to it and play it, whereas maybe with the money they've made from that, they can make FF17 an MMO? I don't know. I mean, look, Square's strategy is basically MMOs at this point. You know, it's been that way since FF11. FF12 looks like
an
it
MMO,
was designed to get you to play FF11. It plays like a single-player MMO. The
Yeah,
combat
that
looks
was
like
the
MMO
idea.
combat. You go into a dungeon and it's a raid dungeon. You know, Fran and Balthier and Vaan, they're all like tanking and healing and DPSing and all that. Even when you're running in between like towns in the open world, it's got that same like dot, that divider that's used. I mean, they even use that in FF14. 13, I don't really know. I mean, well, who knows what happened with 13. But 14's design bleeds into...
Final Fantasy XIV was made on the Crystal... Initially, it was made on the Crystal engine for Final Fantasy XIII, and that really screwed over the game, because the Crystal engine was good for corridor games, really limited scope corridor games like Final Fantasy XIV, and when it was transferred to an MMO, it simply shat itself.
The design of the single-player games after that. FF16, you know, you can just totally tell that it was worked on by Yoshi P. I mean, it's got the same dialogue bloat of 14, it's got the same MMO fetch quests, Clive going out to buy garlic and is a literal main quest. I'm not making this up, this is real. The icon boss fights in FF16 are basically FF14 raid bosses with more expensive graphics. They do the same kinds of moves. They have the don't stand in the circle moves. They have the here come the walls coming at you, stand between this gap and the wall. Here it comes, they're the same moves. FF14's design can also be seen in FF7 Remake and Rebirth. Just look at the Genova boss fight in the Eris death scene, and then look at the Hades boss fight in Shadowbringers, where he's in like phase 2. It looks like the same boss. They're basically, you're on the same field. Here come the lines, don't stand in the lines. Here come the triangle, don't stand in the triangle. It's the same thing, you know. Look at bloody Zack fighting Sephiroth in that scene, with Sephiroth just a big head. It looks like Meteon. The MMO design of Modern Final Fantasy, whether it's 11 or 14, bleeds into the single-player design. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. FF16, every single conversation that characters have when you're getting another fetch quest, it cycles through the same 3 things. 1, hand on hip. 2, arms folded. 3, gesturing with one hand when they talk. Watch that and you will see those 3 things from 14, that movement, just cycle through again and again. And again and again and again. Well, here's what I think. If they can afford to do it, just make FF17 an MMO, turn that into their new golden goose, their new moneymaker, and that's it. Because, I mean, it's what they already do anyway. They just basically cater to the FF14 crowd. As I say, that's why the game design of 14 bleeds into, like, 16 and 7 Remake, Rebirth, and so on and so forth. But, yeah. And then, I don't know, make something else. If I was Square, I would just completely axe WooClimart and put 14 on life support and then just make 17 an MMO. I mean, you know, if you got the money to make Forspoken, if you got the money to make Rebirth, you have the money
oh my god,
to make that.
I played the worst reviewed Final Fantasy game.
Okay, that was not a Final Fantasy game. They're just better.
Square Enix, if you got the money to make Rebirth, you have the money to make that.
Look, it's the character from Expedition 33. Expia or whatever. The fat character that you use as a mount to traverse the map. No co? Chodź Fajdo. No co? Chodź Fajdo. Oh, my dog is here. Yeah. That's one. Oh my gosh. You should ask fake Kyle Parker why he's a hate watcher. I don't know. Why so much hate fake Kyle Barker? Why do you hate me so much? What have I done to you? Apparently there were some crazy things happening with what's his face? What is the name of the guy that's the face of the healthcare system in the United States? Make America Healthy Again. RFK Jr., Minister of Health. What a cool weapon. Yeah, RFK Jr. There's apparently some new controversy surrounding this guy, if you can believe it. Some new revelations regarding this guy. DC fights back. Trump's hostile takeover of DC backfires. Oh, who would have guessed? I had people angry at me for my DC video, by the way. They wrote angry comments that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just a dumb, stupid foreigner that doesn't understand that DC is riddled with crime, that all the crime statistics are just fake, and that Donald Trump did the right thing. RFK Jr. is even weirder than we thought. I, for one, am surprised. Yeah. That is a thing. Apparently, let me just check. Apparently there was a thing about, and I am not even joking, radioactive shrimp crisis. There's a radioactive shrimp crisis. So, I guess we're going to be talking about radioactive shrimps today. We're going to be talking about how America is getting healthier than ever. And also there's this whole thing about Trump hating museums. Trump hates museums for some reason, and I have no clue why. I have no clue why Trump hates museums. The most American line in Metal Gear Solid 1.
That's why we push to have Metal Gear developed as a black project.
Black project?
Secret projects paid for by the Pentagon's black budget. You can avoid a lot of red tape and get a great lead time on your weapons production. And no one can bother you. Not even those bleeding heart liberals on the Military Oversight Committee.
Those goddamn bleeding heart liberals! Cutting the budget for my Metal Gear! That's great!
That's why we pushed.
Yeah. Bleeding heart liberals. Libtards. There you go. Oh yeah, I've got well, hold on. Before we get into Trump, now I've got to know. Okay, which one of you are President Sunday viewers, enjoyers? Okay, do I have anybody that's a President Sunday viewer / enjoyer right now? How many people are watching right now? 6 people? That's good enough. How many people have pressed like? We're gonna do the President Sunday thing now. We're gonna bash President Sunday, because if I bought my if I spent $1 to get a President Sunday whatever subscription support thing, then for God's sake, I'm gonna watch the thing that I've been told where he bashes poor Anastasia, okay? And I'm gonna comment on it. I like President Sunday. Well, President Runday, I mean. Okay, we're gonna take a look at where he bashes my friend Anastasia, and I'm gonna comment on it. I'm gonna try to be fair. I'm gonna try to be reasonable, and I'm going to do my best to You know? Haven't watched Sunday in forever. Well, now it's your time. It's your moment in the sun to watch it. All right, I'm ready. I'm ready to do the thing, the controversial thing. President Sunday. Let me see. I have invested $1 into. I wonder if 5.65 thousand people have paid $1 to have access to his streams, etc. That would mean that President Sunday would be making $5,000 from just having this number of subscribers. That would be crazy. That would be crazy if that happened, wouldn't it? All right, let's go. Let's enter. That was his newest stream. See? I have access. I have access. We're stealing his only support access content, okay? Somehow. I wonder if I'll get in trouble for this. Am I going to get in trouble for this? I don't know. It's okay. We'll risk it for the biscuit. I'm just gonna watch a very small fragment. I'm gonna Google it. Yeah? Okay, he said it's okay and encouraged to react and okay, then. Alright. 4 days ago. Look at this intro. I have a nice intro as well. The person that made this has made the waiting for stream thing that I have. Hold on. Somewhere around here. You know what I'm talking about, right? I have my own pixelated pixel art thing that I have. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Do I have to bring it up? Do I have to show it? Or starting soon? This one. This thing. This was made by the same person as this intro. So this is at the end. At the very end. Hellbent? I think so. Okay. So this is...
You want to watch a Wick panel? Where?
There you go. This is where it's going to happen. It was very short. So I'm just going to make a very short comment. I don't know if it's going to be a segment per se, but I felt like I wanted to say a few words. Because I've heard that unfairness was being spread. So let's listen. President Sunday says you want to watch a Wick panel. I actually know what Wick panel in particular he is referring to. He's referring to the Wick panel during which Dylan Burns and Loner Box were arguing against Lactoid about Ukraine. It was a Ukraine-centered panel. So he's gonna bash the panel and he's gonna bash my friend, which I don't appreciate.
There are a bunch of perverts argue about here, let's see. Maybe this will be. Let's see. Is President Sunday mentioned? No? Okay. Yeah, so it's like you want to watch a Wick panel with a bunch of perverts arguing about Russia for the 1,000th time?
So who's the pervert in that scenario? Who's the pervert in the Wick panel arguing about Russia for the 1,000th time? Is Dylan Burns the pervert? Is Lonerbox the pervert? Lactoid? I have no clue. But I don't know. This is really...
Who cares? You're not doing anything about it.
Like, this is... I'm sorry. This comes off to me as really hypocritical. I don't know.
You want to watch a Wick panel with a bunch of perverts arguing about Russia for the 1000th time? Who cares? You're not doing anything about it.
I mean, I don't know. I think this is a pretty silly thing to say. Well, then why is President Sunday commenting on Gaza? Why is President Sunday talking about the genocide that is happening against the children? Why is President Sunday mentioning Gaza being bombed? He's not doing anything about it. So why even comment on it? Why even give commentary on these events if you're not doing anything about it? Like, this is silly. Like, come on. This is a silly thing to say. Then you might as well not even touch these topics and just play Warhammer on stream. Just become a gaming stream full time and not just don't comment on any of these issues, because it's not like you're gonna do anything about them, right? Sunday super chatted during that. Yeah, I covered that debate live, so I know. I saw the comment. So Sunday super chatted during that debate to remind everyone about Destiny sex pest stuff that Lonerbox escaped for. I think that's why he called them perverts. Well, I'm sorry to say, Dylan Burns never caped for Destiny. Dylan Burns never was involved in any of that. And I'm pretty sure Lactoid wasn't as well. So I don't know about Lonerbox, because I don't actually watch much of his stuff. But I don't know. Perverts plural feels a little bit unwarranted, in my opinion. But just, you know. At least 2 of the 3 people involved in this panel actively have nothing to do with Destiny and have distanced themselves from him long before any of the scandals. So, silly.
Is Ukrainian Anna gonna show up and shill for a pickup truck for some random squad of people whose purpose and function to the Ukrainian war effort is a complete mystery to everyone, because nobody actually bothered to check and see, hey, does any of this make sense? No? Okay.
Oh, this is the part that I really hate. I'm gonna listen to it again, because this is the part that I really hate. This is the part that I just disagree with. This is the part that I have to say, President Sunday is just talking nonsense. I'm sorry. President Sunday is a nice guy, helped me a lot, okay? But this is just a nonsensical statement. Let's listen to this again, because
actually bothered to check and see, hey, does any of this is a complete random squad of...
Because this is very wrong on many levels. Like, we can go point by point why this is incorrect.
Shill for a pickup truck first. Is Ukrainian Anna gonna show up and is Ukraine doing anything about it? Who cares? You're
not doing anything about it. I'm just... because... Okay. To shill, meaning... Noun, North American, informal. An accomplice of a confidence trickster or swindler who poses as a genuine customer to entice or encourage others. Okay. To show for something meaning. To shill for something means to promote or praise something, often in a public way for reasons of personal gain. Yeah, because doing fundraising for the Ukrainian military is just for personal gain. Perfect wording.
Not doing anything about it. Is Ukrainian Anna gonna show up and shill for a pickup truck for some random squad of people who's...
Yes, so Anastasia is just shilling, so asking for money for personal gain for some pickup truck for some random squad, even though Anastasia always gives the exact number of the squad, what it does, because it's in the name of the squad usually, and gives receipts for every amount of money spent. It's not random. You can very quickly see what every single squad that Anastasia gathers the money for does. It's usually in the name. Like, I don't know, mechanized brigade or whatever else brigade. She usually gives the exact number of the brigade and its name. The name usually describes the function of the... So you really cannot say it's just some random group of people whose you have no clue what their contribution to the war effort is. Like that is a really stupid thing to say. It just means that you're jumping into a thing that you have no idea what you're talking about.
Purpose and function to the Ukrainian war effort is a complete mystery to everyone because nobody actually bothered to check and see, hey, does any of this make sense? No? Okay. Like it's demented.
Yeah, it is demented. It is demented what I just heard. Let me just, okay. How difficult it is. Let me see. X. Because apparently it's all demented. It's a random squad. Who knows what they do. What was one of Anastasia's newest things? Let me see. Okay. Let me see if I can find them. Ukraine, 33rd. Can I? Okay. Oh, why isn't it not showing? Jesus. 33rd. Here we go. Oh, wow. Holy crap. That took me 5 seconds. We have no idea what they do. Let's see. Oh. A brigade of Ukrainian ground forces. It was formed in 2023 from a mechanized battalion. As of April 2023, the brigade was in the process of formation. The brigade has notably been providing humanitarian aid to Ukrainian civilians. The brigade was involved in the 2023 Ukrainian counteroffensive. Operations in Kharkiv Oblast 2024 to present. You can just look it up. 5 seconds. And what did President Sunday say about what did President Sunday say?
This makes sense. Mystery squad of people and shill for a pickup truck for some random squad of people whose purpose and function to the Ukrainian war effort is a complete mystery to everyone because nobody...
Yeah, random squad of people whose purpose and contribution to the war effort is a complete mystery to everyone. Complete mystery to everyone. 5 seconds of Googling. And I already see... This is one of her newest fundraisers, by the way, for the 43rd separate mechanized brigade. Took a month, but the 43rd Brigade guys got their car finally. So I guess A car for the random squad. Mission accomplished. There we go. Yeah, it's just random. It's just a random bunch of guys whose contribution is a complete mystery, I guess. Like, if you're gonna bash someone, if you're gonna make critical commentary of someone or something, make it of substance. Don't just attack blindly, randomly, if you don't know what you're talking about. Because it makes you look silly. Am I being unreasonable here? Am I being unreasonable in the critique here? Like, I don't think it's fair to jump at a person that tries to support her country during an invasion and to say that she is shilling for a pickup truck for some random group of people whose purpose is a total enigma to everybody. I don't know. This is just my opinion. And I think I will stand by it. Here you go. I've met Anastasia in person, and I just don't think she deserves this. All right. I guess that's it. Could Moldova fall apart? Oh, well, this is interesting. Any thoughts on what I just said? Like, I noticed the chat got really quiet. Is it because...
Early this month, the governor...
Is it because I got really aggressive? Am I too aggressive? Is Lucy Haza too aggressive? No, it's good. Yeah, you think? I don't know. It's annoying. It's this sort of very... And I think this is a thing that President Sunday just does from time to time. He does not like a certain group of people. He does not like, for legitimate reasons, I would say. But then some people that have nothing to do with it catch strays. Like, I remember the whole debacle with the temporary revival of the hippy dippy when President Sunday got angry at Dylan Burns for something about not attacking a homeless person, left the show, and then said that Dylan Burns' war journalism is just bad, that he doesn't do anything good in Ukraine, and that he just wastes soldiers' time and is a liability, which I'm sorry to say that is how all war journalists operate, by embedding with the armed forces. So I don't like that. I like it when people can be level-headed and look at things objectively, at least a little bit. Resident Giga Chat has finally proposed some content worth of my attention. No. I'm obviously biased and not impartial because I like Sunday, but I think the critique holds up logically. You were indeed able to find to some extent the purpose of those units. Yeah, it was very simple as well. Like, it's not some total mystery. Anastasia doesn't just pocket money and run away. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what happens to the money, and it's all a big blur. Like, people just send money, and then from then on, it's all a big blur, and nobody knows anything. I mean, I like President Sunday as well. When my mom had an accident, a serious accident, well, it wasn't an accident. It was a guy riding into my mom with a scooter, with an electric scooter. And she needed that surgery and rehab, and she would need to wait for the rehab 6 months to get it public healthcare. And then President Sunday organized a fundraiser for my mom. So we got the money to pay for her rehab from pocket. That was great help. It was tremendous help. And I'll probably not soon forget it, if ever, but it doesn't mean that if I see something worth critiquing, that I will not critique it, if that makes sense. And I think this is worth critiquing. I think this is something that is worth commenting on. Okay. Just had to add this little caveat. Gavin Newsom's bullshit is starting to win me over. Everybody's talking about the Gavin Newsom's, I guess, anti-Trump campaign. I'm coming with that saying from the place of a non-empirical biases. Also, hello, Lucy. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. I don't know. It's all crazy stuff. But to say that Anastasia just shills and takes money without anybody knowing what's going on, it's just incorrect. It's just factually incorrect. I mean, I have to push back on somebody saying stuff like that. I think it makes sense. Expedition 33 has a problem. I have no idea what it is, but I guess we'll check it out later.
I am incomprehensibly glad that I will never have to balance a video game.
Did you know that Donald Trump hates museums, by the way? Have I mentioned that Donald Trump is a museum hater? Is someone that just, I guess, hates history, hates me. We'll just get into it. Why? Why does Trump hate museums? Well, I cannot give you the reason why he hates museums, but I can give you his Truth Social post. Does he not like art and history? Because he hates it when history tells the truth about the country that he is from, the United States. Okay, that's why. I'm just gonna check his Truth Social post. Donald J. Trump, real Donald Trump. The museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. Museums are woke. The only purpose for museums are to be woke. The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. I mean, what the hell am I supposed to say? What is he saying? Slavery was not so bad? Slavery was kind of, chill and cool. It wasn't as bad as people say. Or maybe the downtrodden were not unaccomplished. Trump is so sick, absolute idiot. Well, what can I say? I had many people in comments protecting him with their honor. When I did the DC video, there were a lot of people that just said, you don't know anything. You don't know how crime-ridden DC is. You don't know how real and good Trump is for having done this takeover of DC. Also, hello, Rez. I don't think I've seen you here before. Reading that without Trump impression? Oh, I'm sorry. I have to start over. You're right. I have to start over the whole thing. The museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially The last remaining segment of Woke. The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Zohaya from Newcastle upon Tunnel. Hope you're all right, Lucy. I do my best. Hello. I hope I'll see you again. I hope I have won another viewer. Because, as I always say during the streams, I'm trying to grow from a micro streamer to a small streamer. I don't even have the ambition for now to be a middle-sized or a big streamer. I have the ambition to be a small streamer. From micro to small. You know, I have realistic goals. Nice, not bad. Like, actually, this is gonna be bad. Nothing about success. Nothing about brightness. Nothing about the future. Imagine that a museum has nothing about the future. Does Donald Trump know what the purpose of a museum even is? Why do you go to a museum? Oh, I go to a museum to, I don't know, watch exhibitions about the future. Although, okay, oh my God, do I have to like really go into how there are museums, there are different types of museums. There are actually museums that do focus on the future, but whatever. That's besides the point. If you go to a historical museum, don't expect to be seeing things focused on the future. You go to a modern museum for that. You go to a modern museum with a modern exhibition. Then you can go and look at your stuff dedicated to the future, okay? Such museums actually exist. And you can go there and have your fill of super cool exhibitions. I don't even think he knows the concept of museum. Probably just thinks it's just things in a building. Yeah, basically. There's so many great museums. Like, to be fair, there are some museums that do presentations about new tech and stuff like that. I just said it. Like, I just said it. But if you're gonna go to a historical museum, don't expect that stuff, okay? Go to a dedicated museum that's about modern stuff, that's about new technology. As I said, those museums exist and you can go and visit them. There are museums that focus about there are actually museums that focus on success and brightness and the future. But you know what? Historical museums are tasked. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Great minds think alike. Historical museums don't focus on negativity. They don't focus on how bad things were, contrary to what Trump is saying. They don't focus on how horrible the country was or how bad slavery was. They don't focus on brightness or the future. Historical museums primary focus of a historical museum is to present history as it was, preferably for a multitude of different perspectives. If you have a history of a people, and usually a history of a people is actually not a history of a people, there's never such a thing as a history of a single people. There's always multiple of different peoples involved. Then ideally a museum will present the perspective of those different peoples to create a broader picture of what happened. And this is why we have discussions on how slavery was bad. Because if you're gonna do a historical museum on the United States, then of course you will want to represent the perspective of Black people. And what was the historical perspective of Black people in the United States? It was horrible, of course. It was slavery. It was segregation and all that stuff. And you will want to include that perspective. Otherwise, you do not paint a full picture of what happened in the United States. You cannot avoid that. You cannot run away from it. That is what happened. And that is what the museum will have to present. But I guess Donald Trump is against the idea of historical accuracy and the idea of museums in general, by extension. Like, museums are not propaganda buildings. They're not supposed to just hype you up and think how great your country is. It's supposed to teach you real history and make you think about things critically. Think about how the past relates to the present, and hopefully it can make you feel about how things can be better for the future. In that way, it does sort of relate to the future, in that it can make you think about our world today in the relation to that past that you have just witnessed through the exhibition. And it can make you think about what that means for the future. So actually, if you think about it for 5 seconds, even the statement that nothing about the future is incorrect, okay? Even that statement that they have nothing to do with the future is not exactly correct. So we're not going to allow this to happen. And I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that have been done with colleges and universities, where tremendous progress has been made. Oh, I want to read about that progress, because when I read progress from Donald Trump, all I can think of is regress. Oh my God, I want to see the current curriculum. I want to see what the colleges were exactly told to butcher, axe, and remove, because that could be a whole segment in on itself. I know that there's been a whole campaign by Donald Trump against universities, against foreign exchange students, and so on and so forth. But I think it's high time that we start looking into the details of what exactly Trump cooked up for colleges and universities, because it sounds horrible. This country cannot be woke because woke is broke. What does that even mean here? What the hell does that even mean here? A country is not a business. Also, this whole saying about go woke, go broke is stupid. It was stupid and outdated years ago, and it's even more stupid and outdated now. Nobody believes that anymore. Nobody actually believes that woke is broke, quote unquote. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including in our museums. So basically what Trump is saying here is that museums, the function of a museum is to propagandize, to basically glaze a country and critically just praise it to all heaven. All about this country is good, all about the history of this country is great, and it's the hottest country in the world. Slavery was not as bad as the woke people try to say. Unaccomplished, downtrodden people, there was no such thing in American history. Everybody was happy, everything was good, and then it got woke. Okay, and after it got woke, it got bad. But don't worry, Trump is here to make America great again, as it was great before it became woke. That is the purpose of museums, and that is what, in Trump's mind, museums should portray, I suppose. My God. It's just insane. There's just insanity. What do you expect? I expect a lot of angry people to comment under this video as well, telling me how stupid I am and just how I don't understand the genius of Donald Trump, just how I don't seem to grasp the brilliance of this man. Oh my God. Trump says Ukraine shouldn't have taken on Russia. is what I'm reading right now. New statement by Trump. Ukraine should not have taken on Russia. So Trump continues to basically talk about this war as if Ukraine had started it. Museum equals public brothels. Gotcha. Yeah, basically, according to Donald J. Trump, a museum is a public brothel. So brilliant. Yeah, what a great success. What a great success Ukraine has scored in that meeting with European leaders and Trump. When Trump says that Ukraine should not have taken on Russia, it should not have done it. It should have refrained. Wow. Wowzers, trousers. We're seeing so much progress. Okay, you know what? Whatever. We are changing the title of the stream and we're doing my favorite topic because I do have a lot of fondness for this topic, as you know. There's no topic I love more than the topic of RFK Jr. Make America healthy again. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Radioactive shrimps. Exclamation mark. Just one. Let's not overdo it. We're changing the title, okay, to reflect what's going on, because this is a very, very exciting time. I hope you are all just as excited about it as I am. And we're going to... This is sad? No, it's not. Sad? Don't be a downer. Instead of being a downer, you should all... Instead of being downers, I should say, you should all lock in and comment, like the stream, hopefully even donate something if you are feeling generous. And we can then, you know, I can become the biggest leftist in this space, the real leftist in this space, because there are no leftists left. There are no leftists left apart from me. And because I'm the biggest leftist, I'm also the smallest leftist, because the algorithm and everything hates me and wants to put me down, and it's partially your fault. It's partially your fault. Because you're not locking in. And that is a fact, Jack. RFK Jr. Radioactive shrimps. Wow, RFK Jr. sure is making America healthy again. Radioactive shrimp sold at Walmart. FDA says. The Hill. Oh my goodness. As far as I know, quite a bunch of people buy from Walmart, right? Let me see if there's some sort of a video reporting on this, because I always like video. I like video. I don't always like to read. I like to read a lot, but I don't always like to read. Mike from PA? No way. This guy still exists? This guy is still alive? No. This guy still exists? Look at what he looks like now. Oh my god. What a blast from the past. Mike from PA. Goodness. This has been so long since I've heard of this guy. From this guy. Okay, we're gonna open this in a new tab. I'm gonna save it up for later. Oh my goodness. It's okay, Mike. We all make mistakes, and I appreciate that you acknowledge the thing you did wrong. Solidarity! How many subscribers does Mike? From 18,000 subscribers. Oh my god. The same amount that Riley Grace Rochon has, incidentally. Mike from PA had a moment recently that had people talking about him. Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it while I go to the toilet. But let's not lose our focus. Our focus right now is RFK Jr. Okay, radioactive shrimps. RFK Jr. Radioactive shrimps. That is our focus. FDA recalls possible radioactive shrimps sold at Walmart. FDA issues warning over potentially radioactive shrimp. Well, that's cool. That is cool. Radioactive shrimp at Walmart? Urgent FDA war. Jesus Christ almighty. Make America healthy again, I guess. Wow. All right. Cool. Well, he said Jewish is a demonic ethnicity and then he apologized saying he meant Zionism. Oh, okay. I guess. Listen. I think more people should be watching me. If Jewish truly is a demonic ethnicity, then wouldn't you want to watch a demon? Would you not want to watch a demon? I mean, I guess you are here, so you do want to watch a demon, so kudos to you. You have made the right choice to choose to tune in into this demons stream. I'm gonna go to the toilet because apparently even demons pee. And when I'm back, we can take this whole thing on. What about Demon Mama? A fake Jewish person. Fake Jewish person. Alright, I'll be right back. Too bad you were not here, Estelle, for me bashing President Sunday. His video? No, I bashed him for saying that Anastasia, Ukrainian Anna, gathers money for an unknown random squad of people whose purpose for the war is unknown, and that she just shills for a pickup truck, and that none of this makes sense. So that was a thing that I criticized. Has Demon Mama read the Torah? I don't think so. Or maybe actually. There's actually a pretty decent chance that she has. So I will criticize President Sunday for saying that because none of that is correct. None of that is correct. But yeah, there is a decent chance that Demon Mama has actually read the Torah. And yes, Demon Mama has grew up in a cult. She left the cult. I mean, like, I am a demon enjoyer who doesn't like a bit of satanic church burning black metal and evil prowling sex rituals with a lot of black candles and animals. True. That is why you watch this stream. I'm gonna be right back because even demons pee. Also, remember to invite all of your friends, colleagues, spouses, pets, and all that other stuff to this stream because we need to become a small channel. Okay, we were a macro channel for long enough. It's time to graduate to become small. I'll be right back. Careful, there are last trans streamer who used demon as a symbol didn't end well. Well, I don't have a part. Okay, I'm not gonna get into that. Let's just say that I'm not at risk of. I'm not exactly at risk at similar things happening to me as that demon symbolic streamer. FDA recalls possible radioactive shrimp sold at Walmart. So I guess we're gonna watch this video and we're gonna investigate what this whole thing is about, because I don't think eating radioactive shrimp is good for you. I don't think it's healthy for you at all. I think it might just be detrimental to your health. Also, press like on the stream. I think I already said it. I think I'm like a broken record. I'm a broken record streamer. But still, please do press like. That's what the deep state would want you to think, Lucy. That is true. That is true. One day you're gonna wake up and you're gonna realize that Lucy Haze is actually the most twisted mental streamer of them all. And it's gonna be glorious. It's gonna be the wackiest crap ever. You have to get the ghoulish perk for radiation to heal you. I mean, we can work on that. Let's just see what's going on.
The FDA is warning today that frozen shrimp from Walmart may have been exposed to radioactive material. The products were apparently sold in 13 states under the store's Great Value brand. The agency says no shrimp in the U.S. food supply has tested positive yet, but it's still telling people who bought the shrimp to throw it out right away and contact the store for a refund. We reached out to Walmart and the distributor, BMS Foods, for comment, but we've not heard back. The FDA is...
Oh my God, that is so bad. I just wonder I just want to know the list of the 13 states that were affected by this, because, you know, I think it's knowledge worth knowing. Let me see ABC News. FDA warning, do not eat possibly radioactive shrimp sold at Walmart. The FDA is warning the public not to eat, sell, or serve certain Great Value raw frozen shrimp sold at Walmart due to possible contamination with cesium-137. What caused the contamination? I want to know what caused the contamination and how it's all related to RFK. Cesium-137, a radioactive isotope, was detected in shipping containers at 4 U.S. ports and on frozen shrimp from Indonesia's BMS Foods, the distributor. Well, it seems like it's from Indonesia, so it cannot be from Chernobyl. None of the shrimp on U.S. store shelves have tested positive for cesium-137, according to the FDA. All products from BMS Foods are now banned from coming into the U.S. That's fair enough, I think. So, how does all that connect to how is this RFK's fault? Let's just say. I wanna see how this connects to our favorite health minister, because I heard that there is a big possibility that there is a pretty big culpability for our favorite guy. Oh, so what I'm seeing that my favorite state and objectively the best state in the US is not here. What's the What is the abbreviation for? It's free chemotherapy? Well, you only need that when you have actual cancer, don't you? Let me see. What's the abbreviation for? Maryland. MD. MD. Oh, the South will rise again, huh? The South will rise again through radioactive shrimp. FDA, blah, 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 blah. The Food and Drug Administration is warning consumers not to eat, sell, or serve frozen shrimp sold at Walmart due to potential we already know this. Honestly, at this point, I'm not even surprised, says Random 3PO, that this is what's happening in America. The planes have been crashing, the rivers have run dry, anything could happen. And I'd be like, yeah, makes sense. Listen, the president is making America great again. I have no clue why you're complaining. I have no clue why you're such a downer. It feels like you might be not patriotic. Maybe you are like, I don't know, an illegal alien. I have no clue what's going on. I don't know where this hostility towards our great president Donald Trump is coming from. But you better, fix your attitude because America is becoming great again. I was bit by a radioactive shrimp. Well, just wait for your powers to kick in. The FDA was alerted by U.S. Customs and Border Protection about the detection of cesium-137, a radioactive isotope, in shipping containers at 4 U.S. ports: Los Angeles, Houston, Miami, and Savannah, GA. The FDA collected multiple samples for analysis, and the results confirmed the presence of CS-137 in one sample of breeded shrimp distributed by Indonesia's BMS Foods, the agency said in a news release Tuesday. Containers and product testing positive of or alerting for CS-137 have been denied entry into the country. The FDA said in the update, the agency continues to coordinate with CBP to prevent any contaminated products from reaching consumers and is working with Indonesian seafood regulatory authorities to investigate the root cause of the contamination. Okay, I want to know how this is RFK's fault. Like, did the US not cooperate with this company before? Did RFK start, sign a deal with BMS Foods? None of the shrimp that has entered the US food supply has tested positive for CS-137, the FDA said. The FDA suggested all products from BMS Foods sent after the firm's containers tested positive for CS-137 should be recalled, despite the products not testing positive for the radioactive isotope. Consumers should not eat or serve the following great value shrimp products sold at Walmart store. Okay, I want to know, because so far this has not exactly... Trump and RFK Jr.'s FDA. Is RFK Jr. responsible for radioactive shrimp? I wanna. I don't know. I don't find anything on RFK's culpability. Like, it feels like it has been caught. It feels like it has been stopped. Getting rid of regulation is based. Oh, RFK wants to get rid of regulations. Well, Kennedy Jr. may not target pesticides. He's the head of the Department of Health and he is gutting the FDA. This is a disaster to happen. That is true. If he wants to gut the organization that actually caught this, then if he guts it, what if they didn't catch it? What if the shrimp just went to the stores and everybody just ate radioactive shrimp? Radioactive shrimp sounds like a story RFK Jr. would make up and tell a reporter in an interview, like the roadkill bear or the brain worm. Canadian Jr. may not target pesticides, processed foods, Maha draft reports show. Wait, wasn't he talking about processed food, how it was so bad? A new Make America Healthy Again, Maha, draft report on children's health outcomes reveals that the Trump administration won't limit common food production practices like pesticide use. This latest version of the document follows a previous report by the Maha Commission, which is led by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy. Maha. Oh my God, Maha. Hold on. I want to read about RFK Jr. wanting to actually gut the FDA, because that is actually Robert F. Kennedy cuts $500 million in RMNA. But it's all on vaccines. I'm gonna use the word gut. FDA's new expert panels are rife with financial conflicts. FDA's new expert panels are rife with financial conflicts and fringe views. When the Food and Drug Administration needs outside guidance, it normally turns to a trusted source, a large roster of expert advisors who are carefully vetted for their independence, credentials, and judgment. But increasingly, the agency isn't calling them. Instead, FDA Commissioner Marty Makary has launched a series of ad hoc expert panels to discuss antidepressants, menopause drugs, and other topics with physicians and researchers who often have contrarian views and financial interests in the subjects. Well, this is interesting. I love this. I think we should investigate more. I think this is the heart of the Maha movement. Former agency officials worry the meetings are skirting federal rules on conflicts of interests and transparency while promoting fringe viewpoints that align with those of Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So they used to get actual experts, independent experts to give their opinion, but now they're doing lunatic panels with people with fringe opinions that also want to make money on their weird beliefs. That is what I'm hearing, or rather, that is what I'm reading. These meetings are a chance to advance RFK's pet peeves, talc, antidepressants, fluoride, with people who have been handpicked, said Dr. Peter Lurie, a former FDA official who is now president of the Center for Science in the Public Interest. Nobody would put forward these panels as representing the general scientific opinion on these topics. So they're taking a bunch of lunatics that do not represent the consensus in the slightest and use them to push certain viewpoints or even maybe certain action. A spokesperson for Kennedy did not answer specific questions about the panels, but said they represent an effort to apply rigorous evidence-based standards to ingredient safety and modernize regulatory oversight. Yeah, with a bunch of contrarians, I guess. I'm just asking questions. The panels kicked off in May with a meeting on talc, the soft mineral sometimes added to makeup, baby powder, and other consumer goods. The meeting echoed thousands of lawsuits alleging talc has contributed to ovarian cancer and other illnesses, and included 2 experts who testified in those cases. Under FDA regulations, the ingredient is still considered safe when carefully tested for presence of asbestos, and federally funded studies haven't shown a link to cancer. A July meeting on the safety of antidepressants during pregnancy also featured doctors who have testified in class action lawsuits, alongside other experts who allege the drugs cause autism, birth defects, and other conditions, links that are not supported by science. Yeah, those are the experts that you get on these panels, people that directly are implied in lawsuits. The meeting concluded with all but one of the experts calling for a new boxed warning, the most serious type about antidepressant risks for mothers and developing babies. A meeting on estrogen-based drugs for menopause took the opposite approach. Experts urged the removal of a long-standing warning. Most of the physicians at the meeting prescribe the hormones or are involved with a pharmaceutical industry campaign opposing the warning label. Nearly 80 researchers sent a letter to the FDA this month. Also, so on and so forth. We can see that Americans getting healthy again. We can really see the MAHA movement at work, while Kennedy is trying to apparently weaken the organization that will stop radioactive shrimp from coming into the country. Good luck. Good luck in the future if this happens. It's going to be great. It's going to be American people truly will start glowing. It's going to be a glowing period for the United States of America. It's not only going to be great again, it's also going to be healthy again. Finally. I've been waiting. My dog never gets this angry. Just saying. Look at this. It's a puppy. Oh my god, this is still a puppy. What a puppy. This dog is so stressed out. My Fido's never this stressed out. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Lies of P. I'm gonna have to play it at some point, don't you think? Queeman. Insane drama news. Maybe Gamescom. Insane drama news. Is of course. Insane drama news. What do you know? Times Independent. Oh yeah, I want to see Trump saying that. There's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about when it comes to Trump and when it comes to the news about Ukraine. Hold on. Queeman. What is this guy doing? Jesus Christ. Crazy, insane, insanity. You don't pronounce it like you used to. Wait, what don't I pronounce like I used to? What did I used to pronounce differently? Summit. Conservative doesn't get it. Of course, Brett Cooper doesn't get why Jennifer Welch is mad. Of course. Of course he doesn't. Throw them in jail immediately. Streamer dies live on air. What? What? What do you mean what? You said you don't pronounce it as you used to. I'm asking you what word are you referring to? What are you talking about? Oh, Queeman. Ah, I used to say Queechman, which is the best way to pronounce it. Queechman. I love how Sid has been cut out of the roster. I love how Sid is not part of your team anymore in Final Fantasy. My favorite Final Fantasy VII character has been written out of it. Brilliant. Brilliant move, Square Enix. Brilliant. Probably going over Queeman this time. Oh, bro, thank you. Thank you, food shops, for this. Destiny endorses a pedophile who would swat me. Oh. God, this is so stupid. Fall of a franchise. Final Fantasy's brutal collapse. I want to watch a little bit of this before we get into a little bit more serious topic, but we're going to... Okay, we're not going to watch the full of it, but I want to see the person make his case.
I am Razio.
What's up, you beautiful bastards?
Okay, now we can just speed it up, okay? I have no patience for this.
And welcome to the first video in my new series, because what better things are there to do in our dystopian society that's clearly at the end of its rope than watch videos about the fall of beloved video games? This is the first video in a series I like to call The Fall of a franchise. And as we always do on my channel, we are going to go hard in the paint right out of the gate with this first entry. So without further ado, let's do the drop and get into the fall of the franchise, Final Fantasy. And strap in because this is going to be a long one.
All right, let's go. I mean, a lot of people argue that Final Fantasy has been on the falling, I don't know, has been on the path down ever since its creator left, Square. Sakaguchi. That's been a
now,
somewhat
for
of a
anyone
consensus.
who is anyone and knows anything about anything at all when it comes to RPGs and gaming, knows the name Final Fantasy. The Final Fantasy franchise and the
Also, it's not a franchise, okay? A franchise is just a bunch of things that anybody can buy into. It's not. It's a series, okay? It's not a franchise. I hate that people misuse the word franchise like this.
acronym RPG go hand in hand, and for the longest time were synonymous with one another. Especially when we're talking about the JRPG, as Final Fantasy is quite literally the father of them all. You see, back in the early 80s...
No, actually, Dragon Quest is older than Final Fantasy, so no, actually, this is not correct.
When I was alive. When the gaming industry was just beginning to bounce back, courtesy of Nintendo's success with the Famicom or the Nintendo Entertainment System, the RPG genre was relatively unheard of, especially when it came to video games. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a few for the NES, and I'd argue even for the Atari 2600.
Like what? Do you mean the Dragon Quest game? That actually was the progenitor, not Final Fantasy?
But they were relatively unheard of, not really recognized, and the bulk of RPG play was done back then with pen and paper, a la Dungeons and Dragons in Mom's basement.
I'm casting Magic Missile. Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here. I'm attacking the darkness.
Enter a company on the brink of bankruptcy, Squaresoft, with their last Hail Mary attempt at a release to try...
That is not correct. Dragon Quest was the game that made the wave, not Final Fantasy. At least in Japan.
To stay together and stem the tide. They released Final Fantasy with Hironobu Sakaguchi, who took his inspiration from Dragon Quest, a game...
There you go.
Enix at the helm of the project. In fact, the name Final Fantasy came from Sakaguchi's statement that if this game didn't hit and was a flop like pretty much everything else Squaresoft had done at the time, it would be his final attempt as a game designer. Ironic. And in Japan, it was an absolute hit, and it saved Squaresoft from bankruptcy, selling more than double of what its expected sales numbers were. Sales were modest in the West, however, as RPGs were even more niche in America than they were in Japan, not to mention translation woes and the fact that Western audiences were obsessed with side-scrollers like Mario Brothers at the time. But even in the States, Final Fantasy for the NES at least broke even, if not slightly exceeded expectations with sales, in a market where Square was advised not to even release it at all, as it was projected to do very poorly. But by the end of the NES's life cycle, RPGs were becoming less of a niche in the West.
Look, it's like a mustache salesperson
market, and this was thanks in part to Final Fantasy in many ways. Everything would change though for Squaresoft and Final Fantasy, the franchise, when gaming entered the beginning.
It's not a franchise. People don't understand what the franchise is.
Of what many consider to be the golden age of gaming, the age of the 16-bit console wars, and the rapid technological leaps for gaming that eventually led into...
No, the reality is that in the West, Final Fantasy VII was the thing that put Final Fantasy on the map. Before Final Fantasy VII, it was not as popular, not nearly as popular.
Future, i.e. Nintendo 64.
Final Fantasy VI was not as nearly popular in the West as Final Fantasy VII was.
And the Sony PlayStation, the Xbox, etc. I mean, now RPGs were starting to get real notoriety, especially if you happen to be on Team Red of the console wars, the SNES. And while the Genesis did have a few games in the genre, the NES had the real bangers and a library of RPGs that just could not be matched at the time. I mean, just to name a few, Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore, other Square titles, by the way, Earthbound, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Illusion of Gaia, Lufia, and arguably the best RPG of all time, Chrono Trigger, again, another Squaresoft RPG, were all for the Super Nintendo. But before many of these games that I just listed came out, there were 2 games made by Squaresoft for the SNES that defined the genre and the system, and brought RPGs and Final Fantasy into the conversation of masterpieces that it hadn't been in before. I'm of course talking about Final Fantasy II, 2 in the US, 4 in Japan, and Final Fantasy III in the US, 6 in
They were not that popular in the West, so let's not pretend that they're... Let's not retrospectively rewrite history and pretend that those games were a super mega hyper popular in the West.
Japan. The United States wouldn't get the real Final Fantasy II, 3, or 5 till much later, and I'll mention that a bit later as well. And while many consider especially the original Japanese 3 and 5 masterpieces, like the others, 2 is a bit controversial, but I digress, getting off track here. Alongside this came editions of some Final Fantasy games.
Let's see what the comments are.
One of which I own.
We need Sakaguchi back, at least to direct one last game. He is the reason why Final Fantasy games are a success in the first place. Whose idea was that turn-based combat was out? This really always puzzled me. Why? Using the laughing scene from FF10 as a demonstration of an unlikable character is a glaring sign that you either never played this game or simply don't understand its plot.
Final Fantasy Legends, as well as Square's attempt to get people afraid of the genre, giving them a little bit of some training wheels into it with Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, another SNES release. But I won't go into much detail with the...
Okay, we don't have to get through this. We get it. Final Fantasy used to be cool, and now it's shit. It's okay. It became... Let me see.
Forgettable cast of characters and villains I have ever had the displeasure of encountering in a video game.
People really bash Final Fantasy 16.
And while I wouldn't say the game is an outright hunk of useless garbage, it would be the understatement of the century. I'll put it into the simplest terms. Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 was a poorly optimized, broken, buggy bag of spoiled ass, and that is pulling my punches. Final Fantasy XIV 2.0, also known as A Realm Reborn. And to its credit, while many parts of it were World of Warcraft clones, it was night and day difference from Final Fantasy XIV 1.0. The game sold like hotcakes. Square had to open additional servers, temporarily stop sales so that server capacity could catch up, and they finally, after a long time, had a winner on their hands. But all good things, just like the bad, must eventually come to an end, my sweet summer child. And as Final Fantasy XIV went on, and poor design decisions by Yoshi P and his team over the next decade would dumb the game down, severely homogenize it, destroy class identity, and flat out begin to try and stay relevant by straight up lifting entire characters, music, and plot lines from old classic masterpiece Final Fantasy games, the game started to decline, and decline quickly. In fact, with its latest expansion, Dawn Trail, it's hit the lowest point it ever has. The game made the prime mistake of promoting and pushing the most unlikable woke light character while simultaneously trying to lift yet even more content from other Final Fantasy games and other RPGs in their arsenal without attempting to address the core design flaws in the game. And you have players...
Oh damn, it's not a very popular expansion, the newest one. Still want to play it. I do have it. I cannot love Final Fantasy 16. Damn. Hideo Kojima's disturbing history of racism and misogyny. Damn. Well, it is what it is. You're a racist. You're evil. It is what it is. We have to tackle things as they come. Oh. Of course it's the woke's fault. Of course. Woke is broke. Didn't you hear what President Trump said? Woke is broke, just like the museums. Woke is broke, bro. Alright. I I wanna go to my favorite Polish news site to have something on screen while I'll talk about things. Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna prepare a few things. Yeah, news. What a face! What a face! Zelensky turned down offer. Yes, that is what I wanted. Trump. Ukraine should not have taken Russia on. Yeah. Tools. Oh, sorry for us. No use. No ground troops to Ukraine. Trump vows not to send US troops to Ukraine because, of course, everybody got so excited about the United States security guarantee when it was very clear from the very start that it would mean nothing. Trump blames Ukraine for taking on. There you go, found it. Trump blames Ukraine for taking on a nation 10 times your size, despite Russia being the one that invaded. Love it. Gotta love it.
And Russia is a powerful military nation, you know, whether people like it or not. It's a powerful nation. It's a much bigger nation. It's not a war that should have been started. You don't do that. You don't take on a nation that's 10 times your size. And
Biden came in.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Because of course, it's always Ukraine. It's always Ukraine's fault. But let's talk about something else for now. Let us switch gears because it feels like we're getting off track. And getting off track is my specialitat. It's my speciality, getting off track. Hold on. Oh my god. So pathetic. Pathetic and sad. Sad times are upon us. It is the woke's fault. The woke's fault. Here. What I'm talking about is this. So as I've been very cynically and skeptically saying during the talk with the European leaders, Trump said, and Zelensky, of course, that we are on the brink of getting peace. We are on the brink of making big progress. He said that he had a great conversation with Putin, which already makes my blood freeze considering how horrible a meeting that was. And he said that the next step is just to organize a trilateral meeting between himself, Zelensky, and Putin. This will inevitably lead to peace. And then all that is left is to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine via Europe with American support. And of course, my immediate response was, okay, what if Russia does not play ball when it comes to a trilateral meeting between Zelensky, Putin, and Trump? What if that is refused, and what if that doesn't happen? What then? Well, then, of course, the entire plan falls apart and we're back at square one and nothing was accomplished. And we are now at a stage where Trump has spoken to Putin privately, of course, because talking in the presence of any other European leaders or Zelensky would have been very disrespectful towards Putin, as per the words of Trump himself. And of course, let's not forget that the only reason that Putin wants peace, the only reason why Putin wants to make a deal is as a personal favor to Trump. There is a very distinct little statement made by Trump that was caught on microphone when he said that, as crazy as it sounds, Putin wants to make a deal for me. So Putin actually agreed to a meeting with Zelensky, one-on-one meeting with Zelensky, which will be followed by a trilateral meeting. The catch, of course, is that Putin said Zelensky can meet me. Zelensky can come to Moscow and meet me, which we all know is a terrible idea. Knowing Russia, I don't even have any doubts that moves to detain even or do something to Zelensky would be made on Russian soil. I have no doubt about that. Who knows what could happen to Zelensky if he chose to go to Moscow to conduct conversations 101. And of course, it feels like it's a horrible idea, even if nothing would happen to him, to be quite honest, to hold these talks in Moscow, of all places. And I assume, of course, taking all these things into consideration, Zelensky has, of course, refused to meet Putin in Moscow, which can be interpreted by all sides in many different ways. We could see very well Trump throw a tantrum and say, oh, Zelensky is once again standing in the way of peace. He doesn't want to meet Putin, even though Putin has agreed to a talk. And now he just wants to prolong this. He doesn't want to play ball. He doesn't want to make a deal. That's a possibility. But maybe people will see reason, and maybe people will see that Putin is proposing a meeting on unreasonable terms. Maybe that will also happen, but I would not hold my breath, because if there is anything that we have learned of this whole process since the beginning of the year, is that if Trump has any opportunity to pressure anyone, it's between Zelensky and Putin. It's always going to be Zelensky, without exception. The pressure is always going to be on Ukraine. It's always going to be on Zelensky, no matter what. President Vladimir Putin proposed that Volodymyr Zelensky meet him in Moscow for peace negotiations, but the Ukrainian president rejected the idea of holding talks in the Russian capital, the AFP news agency reported. Yeah, I cannot say that I blame him, but now we are in a sort of impasse. Once again, we are in an impasse where another counter proposal has to be made to Putin about a meeting. The meeting has to be organized. Putin has to agree to it, because of course, if a new avenue of meeting is proposed to Putin, he may say, well, I told Zelensky that I could meet him in Moscow, and I'm not willing to meet him anywhere else. And again, this just prolongs it, just stalls. This just creates a situation in which there has been a lot of great words, about a lot of accomplishment, and yet at the end of the day, nothing is accomplished, nothing is done. It's just once again a lot of patting each other on the back, saying how much progress was made, while in the meantime, the reality of the situation is Ukraine is still being bombed every day, citizens are being terrorized every day, and Russia is pushing on the front line, while European politicians congratulate themselves on being such great allies. That is the unfortunate reality from my perspective of the situation. And so far, it does not seem that the situation will get any better anytime soon. I will believe it where I see it, okay? I have stopped believing declarations. I have stopped being hyped about meetings. I have stopped being hyped about summits. I will believe it when I see it. I will believe it when I see some very specific moves towards this conflict coming to an end on under conditions that would be actually acceptable to Ukraine and its people. Sounds like a phony excuse after he visited Alaska. Yeah, it is a phony, but, you know. It is what it is. The fact that Zelensky would reject meeting Putin in Moscow was obvious as day. I think this offer was made. It was calculated that Zelensky would refuse. This is a stall tactic once again. I think so. So we don't even have a meeting between Zelensky and Putin yet. And until that happens, we definitely cannot have a trilateral meeting. So once again, all those things, all those beautiful things about security, all those things about the bright future are meaningless because no real progress has been made. We are where we were before. And that's it. There's nothing more to talk about. There's not much more that I can talk about regarding this. Except for the fact, of course, that Trump has once again said that Ukraine should not have taken Russia on. Because, of course, that is what happened. That is what happened. Ukraine just one day woke up and decided, hey, you know what we should do? We should take Russia on. And then the rest is history, I guess. Ridiculous. Ridiculous, and it's time we stopped being satisfied with crap like that. We stopped being satisfied with being thrown nothing burgers and empty slogans and rhetoric, which is something that the Ukrainian side understood very well at the beginning of 2024. I'm not really gonna get into it, but a lot of people understood for a long time that the allies of Ukraine posture more, do a lot of lofty statements, but those things are rarely followed up by real action that would actually tip the scales, change the situation on the battlefield, give Ukraine leverage. You know, all those things are tangible things that would help Ukraine get a favorable peace. But, you know, who am I to comment? I'm just Lucy. So who am I to comment on these things? Amazing. How long have we been streaming tonight? Not that long. It's been 2 hours. Although we have done a few segments, so. Any thoughts? Any disagreements? Any anger coming from anybody? Any good stream, good length? Oh, you want me to finish stream? You want me to end stream? Is that it? Am I hearing that you want me to end it now? You'd like me to get out of here? Oh. Any thoughts on the segments so far? Any questions? Any, you know, anything that you want to share? Anything that you want to ask? Anything that you feel needs expanding on? Poland. 2 patients fall to their deaths at Polish hospital. Why was Poland left out of Washington talks on... Oh, I'm not even going to talk about that. There's a lot of people speculating as to why Poland was left out of the whole Washington talks on Ukraine. I'm tired. I really don't care to talk about it. As long as Ukraine gets the result that it needs, I don't really care if Poland is excluded. This is not about Poland. This is about Ukraine. And that's all I have to say about it. I want to see more action towards actually supporting Ukraine. I want to see less bloat. I've been in and out of the stream. Hello, Rez. So, are you enjoying stream? Do you like it? Do you have any feedback for me? I feel like you're a new viewer, so maybe you have a fresh set of eyes. You have a fresh set of critique for me. I'm trying to be more animated because I keep hearing from my editor that I act as if I was half asleep, so I try my best to. And in my defense, I have been not sleeping very well. In my defense, I have not been sleeping very well lately. And in your defense, you're Polish. Well, that's true. That is true. That is also part of it, I guess. Rainer Newcastle mentioned, I really enjoy your streams. Lucy, your commentary is good. Thank you. Thank you. I do my best to provide commentary that is not devoid of any substance. I inject some substance, it's like I add the MSG of commentary. Enhance the flavor. Putin promises to meet with Ukraine Zelensky. Yeah, he promises, but then he proposed to do it in Moscow and nothing came of it. So, promises are promises, but... What? Oh, God. Promises are cheap. Sorry, I swore I wrote Lucy, but... predictive texts. Yeah, autocorrect. I admire your Slavic attitude. Don't worry. Yeah, thank you. I do have a Slavic attitude. That is true. Very cynical, very bitter. Although I think my grandfather had a much more positive attitude, so. What? This is not an app. I'm not using an app. I'm being censored. Whatever. The point is that Putin has promised if we start negotiations now, they will be illegitimate. He was cited as saying by Voice of America, while Radio Free Europe quoted him as saying that Zelensky had no right to sign anything. Yeah, Putin basically called Zelensky a dictator, no election, he has no right to represent Ukraine. Putin proposes Moscow meeting, of course, rejected. Putin won't stop. I just don't see. He wants to keep pushing. Yeah, that's why he's stalling with the whole meeting thing. Exactly. I'm gonna... Oh yeah, also, if you're feeling very generous, because I'm not sure if you're a new viewer or not, but I go to Ukraine very often, actually. I actually am a bit of a journalist myself. I report on the situation of Ukrainian children in war. One of my articles have actually been approved for publication in a bi-monthly magazine in Poland. And in addition, I plan to do a lot more with the material that I've gathered around kidnapped children, as well as in general, children's experience in war. Oh, fuck. No. No. Oh my god. Okay. Well, I guess my father's legacy is going down the toilet. Thank you. As Poland moves towards being a shitty state. Nawrocki is predictably going to push towards the president having a lot more power. Because, of course, the president is going to push towards him getting a lot of power within the new constitution. No way. Holy moly. This is bad. This is actually really bad. I want to see... I want to actually Google this. I did not think I'd be covering this, but... Okay. That's good. That's good. If it's unofficial, then okay. Because that got me... You see, if you want to rate someone on Twitch, rate this small streamer. I still have to log into Twitch. I don't know much of Polish politics, but I know many politicians are cunts. That is true. I want to see if there's any... Oh, my God. Oh. Jesus Christ almighty. That can... Oh. The newly elected president of Poland wants to do huge sweeping changes into the Polish constitution. He wants to change every single chapter of it. I'm trying to find any English-speaking news on it so that I can give you the TLDR. That is horrible. That is really bad. Poland's newly elected president proposes major constitutional overhaul. Well, as I said before, there goes my father's legacy. Down the drain, down the toilet it goes. Poland's newly elected president. Poland's... Oh, I keep having to read this crap. Announced plans for sweeping changes to the country's constitution, with proposals set to alter almost every section of the nation's fundamental law. I can already bet money. I'm betting money, actual money, that he will want to increase presidential powers. It's obvious as day that he wants to be able to do more. The lunatic that he is. I've heard of this lad. I have a terrible memory, but I know he's a massive ultra-conservative nutjob, says Rez. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Nawrocki will establish a council at the turn of September and October to draft the new constitution. The council will be chaired by Dariusz Dudek, the president's newly appointed advisor. Sources say that the reforms aim to significantly expand presidential powers. Wow. Oh my God, that was so difficult to predict. Wow, how could I have seen this coming? Oh my God. Could you have seen this coming? The thing that I said right away was the purpose for all this crap? For him to just expand his powers? Oh my gosh. Whoa. And reshape the judiciary. Yep. Among the planned changes is a revision of the article governing the National Council of the Judiciary, clarifying its powers, operational procedures, and the election of its members. Brilliant. Tell me when you're finished, and I'm going to link you how What If History influenced America's foreign relations. Okay. Brilliant. Oh, God. Nawrocki's team also seeks to enshrine a ban preventing judges from engaging in any political activity. Other proposed amendments include measures to strengthen border protection, enhance the role of local government, and guarantee the preservation of Poland's national currency. No euro. Draft proposals will be presented at the Law and Justice Party's autumn Congress, with constitutional matters overseen by Przemysław Czarnek, the previous Polish Minister of Education. And believe me when I say he was a horrible Minister of Education. Simply horrible. And Bartłomiej Wróblewski. Nawrocki, 42, assumed office on August 6, 2025. A historian by training, Nawrocki earned his PhD from the University of Gdańsk in 2013, with a thesis on anti-communist resistance in the Elbląg region. His academic career includes roles as the director of the Museum of the Second World War and whatever. We don't have to read his biography. The point is, this is a shit show. Of course, he's gonna do a power grab or attempts to do a power grab. Very predictable stuff. Gdansk, yeah. Gdansk is a pretty historical city, but he was talking here about Elbląg. Yeah, Gdansk is a pretty historical city. Yeah, agreed. We'll see. We'll see if anything. I hope this is a nothing burger. I hope that I'm making a fuss over nothing, because if this comes to pass, then oh my God. More and more good news. I said sarcastically. Oh, we were supposed to talk about Mike from PA. What the fuck happened? Okay, link me.
This right here is the absolute state of Russia.
Hit me up, Vladimir. Hit me up, Vladimir, with the what about Hest thing, because we need it. We need to. Yeah, you think so? Speaking of Russia, yesterday I found this subreddit called Ask Russian, and I was speechless. The amount of stupidness. Lots of typical morons who are so proud of themselves that they cracked the Western propaganda and Russia is actually based. Well.
Russian propaganda at the moment. Yes, guys. That right there was Russian state propaganda that talks all day about the Nazis in Ukraine and the evil West, showing TikTok edits that ship Trump and Putin together as
Evil West is a game. We have to continue playing it at some point. Evil West. The evils of the West. Notwithstanding.
part of propaganda on the news. Guys, what the is going on? And even though it seems unreal, this is very much reality, because Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump have recently officially met during a peace summit in Alaska, and it was basically not just a failure, but probably one of the biggest embarrassments that America has seen in the last couple of years.
True.
And that is saying a lot. So hey there people, it is your boy Roman, your favorite neighborhood Russian, and in today's video, as a Russian who left Russia and who doesn't support the governments, I'll react to the recent Trump and Putin meeting, and just to rage at it a little bit, okay? Because look, just seeing what happened at this meeting, how absolutely useless it was, and how it led to absolutely nothing, makes me want to stop believing in politics altogether, and I'm just so tired of seeing these two, okay? I'm tired of this old geriatric fucker and this little guy right here, walking in his height enhancement shoes, trying desperately not to fall over, okay? I can no longer take this seriously, okay? So like, look, if you came to this video for serious geopolitical analysis, and me describing what this now means and what it's gonna lead to, dude, I don't fucking know what is going to lead to. It led to basically nothing, right?
True, nothing happened. Well, something happened. The political isolation of Russia ended, so...
I don't have much to say because I also don't know what's going on at this point, and I don't want to pretend like I do. If anything, my analysis leans on the nothing ever happens side, okay? However, as a person whose life has literally been affected by this little fella right here...
Well, that is actually incorrect. That is incorrect analysis. Something definitely happened, and it was definitely favorable to Russia, so... Something happened.
Quite negatively, and as somebody who finds all of this fucking ridiculous, I do have quite a few thoughts, okay? The whole thing was just a complete mess from the very start. Even the fact that Vladimir Putin, somebody who is renowned as a war criminal worldwide now, who is wanted by the International Criminal Court, is being invited to the United States.
Yeah, but why would Trump care about the International Criminal Court? Trump has literally sanctioned the International Criminal Court via an executive order because he hated the fact that the International Criminal Court put out an arrest warrant on his friend Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump does not care for the International Criminal Court. He holds the court in contempt. These are empty, meaningless statements.
States of America. I mean, you shouldn't find that surprising, actually, given that Benjamin Netanyahu also visits the US and has a great relationship with Trump. So America...
There you go. There you have it. But it goes further than that. Trump has actually sanctioned the ICC.
He's actually being consistent in his values here. You know, just the fact that they rolled out like a red carpet for Vladimir Putin once again.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Wait, hold on. Should I change title? Oh yeah, I should change the title again. There you go. That's the new stream title. Enjoy this new stream title, okay? I feel like I'm making some banger titles. Like the stream. Press like. Israel and Russia are his best bets. Hardcore fascists like to... Yeah, that is true. Birds of a feather flock together.
And a person who's like literally responsible for like people dying on a massive scale, which is quite funny because as far as I understand, in America they usually roll out the red carpet for like army veterans or something, people who have done something for America, and good old Vladdy died, he gets that treatment too, I guess. Which is also all like really ironic because this is how, you know, Trump and America treats, once again, is a dictator who like punishes and kills his own people, right? For opposing and for having a different opinion. And we can just rewind a few months back and remember how Trump treated...
Yeah, Trump doesn't care about any of that. Trump treats people like that as his friends. Because they are strong, and strong people deserve to win. Or something, I think.
Zelensky. Trump and Vance, who are supposed to be like his allies, were literally fighting him. There were people saying that Zelensky should have worn a suit and that type of shit. And again, that was just a guy who was trying to keep his country together and stop a huge invading force, right? And now we have the guy here who's literally the mastermind behind the invasion and everything. And this is how he's treated. It really is quite incredible, you guys. I mean, it feels like at this point the West just cannot stop taking L's, man. Putin himself said that the US summit was very useful. And actually that is reflected a lot in the way Russian media right now has responded to the results of the summit. But what exactly have they been saying? And in order to tell you guys about it, here I am on the website of Ground News on an article about Russian politicians hailing Alaska summit as a victory for Moscow.
If this is going to be a Ground News, okay. I thought for a second that this is going to be an ad read. This is going to turn into an ad read for Ground News. Okay, I thought for a second there, I thought this was going to be a little bit of an ad read, but thank God we have been spared. We have been spared the ad reads.
Senior lawmaker in Russia, Andrei Klishas, portrayed the summit as a coup for Russia and a loss for Ukraine and its allies, saying that the tasks of the special military operation will be accomplished either by military or diplomatic means. I've actually been working with Ground News for a while, and if you guys are not aware of what it is, it collects the news from all over the world in one place.
Oh no, it is an ad read. Oh God. Of course, I spoke too soon. I spoke too soon.
Compare headlines and coverage, allowing you to see the ownership, the factuality, and the political bias of every single source. Now, in this article on Ground News, I can see that there's a total of 19 news sources that cover this topic, and I can actually go down and individually check out every single source and click on them. We can compare coverage. A lot of media saying, for example, that Russia points out itself as the winner, and while CNN, for example, reports on the Russian media hailing Trump Putin talks as progress, some media straight up saying that what happened was a fiasco and that Europe will pay the price. It's great to be able to compare different headlines like this, and also I really like the blind spot feature on Ground News, which actually shows you articles that are either underreported on the right or on the left. I think Ground News is a great way to consume media and to improve your media literacy, and even the Nobel Peace Center has recently recognized Ground News as an excellent way to stay informed, to avoid echo chambers, and to expand your
maybe
worldview. So, if you guys like
this sounds ass.
Try Ground News for yourself and go over to the link down in the description to
it's just whatever, don't worry about it. Don't worry about Ground News, just don't worry.
News/NFTRZ, subscribe to my link and get 40% off of the Vantage plan, which is exactly the subscription that I use. Huge thanks to Ground News for sponsoring this video, and let's get right back into it.
I knew it. Jesus Christ, I've been caught off guard.
So yeah, essentially you get it. The results of
there should be a thing, there should be a whole separate thing called ad read, okay? Ad read should be separated so that I can conveniently skip it.
Trump's diplomacy have been great, Russia is celebrating, and everybody in the West pretty much also considers this to be a massive failure. Alright guys, now we finally get into the part of the video.
Don't worry about corporations that want to save you from thinking true.
Video in which I make fun of Vladimir Putin. So, the start of the meeting itself. Once again, Vladimir Putin is trying his hardest to not fall down walking down in that staircase in those tall shoes that he's got, because it has been thoroughly documented throughout the last 20 years that Vladimir Putin is a man that is very insecure about his height. His height constantly changes depending who he's next to for whatever reason, and it is not a disputed thing that Vladimir Putin wears tall shoes, okay? So yeah, he did really well here, he didn't have his Biden moments, I guess, but this right here, I think, right, is the moment where you can really call the bullshit. Trump, applauds a little bit, of course, because he is a fan of war criminals. Putin comes up.
What the hell is happening?
My guy, and once again, like, something is clearly really wrong here, okay? Keep in mind, once again, that Donald Trump is 1.9 meters tall, and Vladimir Putin is said to be 170 centimeters tall. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know if I'm buying it, guys, to be honest. And even better than that, we actually have more evidence.
Where is this guy from? He has very particular way of speaking. This guy's from Russia. This guy is like, he ran away from Russia. He's Russian.
More footage. Guys, do I even need to say anything? I know people don't choose their height and stuff, but I will never stop making fun of Vladimir Putin for being short, okay? It's just really funny that this is the type of shit this man still has to do. This man who has unlimited wealth, unlimited power, who can literally kill anybody. He can kill me right now, I'm pretty sure, right now, this second. And even then, still, he cannot, like, escape the heaviness of the height mugging that, that he has to endure. And myself, as a tall Russian, as 6'4", 194, I think, centimeter Russian, again, I will never ever stop making fun of Vladimir Putin for his shortness. He is a man that is the size of a little child. And also another...
He does not attack people for living there. I have no clue what you're talking about, Jack. Don't do it. As always.
part of the summit that I personally would like to point out is that Vladimir Putin has essentially been exposed to like actual journalism and real people asking actual questions for the first time in his life, basically, or like for the first time in the last 15 years of his life, because he's created a system where nobody can ask him shit. First of all, we have this one already classic moment here.
President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
Oh my god. What the fuck was that?
President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
President Putin, will you stop killing civilians? Yeah, he's based. He's pretty good.
Here.
President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
You fucking... If you can't hear, get the fuck away, bruh. If you're so old that you can't hear the fucking questions or whatever, don't be the president of the country for 25 years, you fuck. Okay? Oh god, I hate him, bro. I hate him so much. What'd you say? This is how he's acting, bro. You fucking dumb... God. I am praying on this man's downfall. I'm not even Christian. But also this shit right here is going viral right now, where essentially, well, there was no real press conference, right? They just sat down literally for like 5 minutes right here and didn't answer a single question from any journalist whatsoever. It was just this fucking clusterfuck, right? And Putin was just sitting there and making
And then they did a press conference during which they gave no question time for the press and just left.
Fucking faces, because he's a fucking dumbass.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Let's go. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Let's go. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Let's go. Let's go.
He looks like an old fucking grandma, dude. What the fuck, man? What the your reaction when you get an actual question from an actual journalist that hasn't been pre-approved by you for the first time in your career? Funny, bro. Really fucking funny. I'm like actually fighting the urge to like beat up my screen right now. You guys need to understand this. This is difficult to look at, okay? But yes, Vladimir Putin is making funny faces because he has never been challenged or asked a real question in his fucking life. Vladimir Putin has never had a single public debate in his entire life. He's not an alpha giga chat, okay? He cannot say shit.
Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, thank you very much, Vladimir.
I mean, exactly, right? He's not an
Oh my god.
posing like intimidating figure. He's a soft-spoken little like sissy bitch-made beta male, okay? That's what he really is, man. And nobody realizes it. It's absolutely incredible. By far my favorite though was actually looking at comments underneath this video here of Putin making his little gay faces and you have
next time in Moscow.
Comments from Westerners saying American reporters are an embarrassment. He's like, holy shit, this is what Trump has to deal with every day. Complete embarrassment, not Putin. The American media sounds like a bunch of turkeys. Our clown media sure knows.
Yeah, don't forget what Asmongold always says. The media is the enemy.
To make Putin look like a statesman, so like, you get it, right? Americans, once again, loving fascism, very classic. We already come to expect this by this point, not even surprised at this point. I know what you people are saying here. Yes, you would rather have a country like Russia, where there are no journalists, where nobody's allowed to ask anything. When asking questions gets you go to prison, and where the entire journalist, like, profession in the country is about being a fucking
Maybe Asmongold would like this.
Sucker of the government, just being a bootlicker and just defending everything that they ever do. You want that in America. I mean, yeah, I know you do. But look, who am I even talking to here, I guess? Who am I even trying to address? These are the people who, like, still ride with Trump, even after the Epstein file scandal and everything. Like, хоть сыв в глаза, всё божья роса. Then they had this fucking talk here about nothing, basically.
Oh, no.
For like 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I know that some people will probably get triggered by this video and they're gonna say, of course, another person who lives in La La Land who thinks that, you know, Russia can be fully defeated or whatever and that, you know, you cannot go into any talks with them or anything. Look, I mean, as a Russian who left Russia and who despises the regime there, right? I would like to see another government. I would like to see some kind of change. Maybe I would like some kind of utopia universe in which Putin basically loses, concedes, and then stops being president because he lost the war and because this is how, you know, things work, because we live in a fucking movie apparently. But no, that's not how things work. That is not going to happen. And apparently, yes, even though these are fucking terrible, horrible people, I guess at some point you do have to talk to them. You do have to have these peace talks. But the way these peace talks were done, and the way Putin was treated by the president of the United States, who's supposed to be like, you know, a guy who's like the leader of the free world or whatever, I just think it's a complete joke. They're basically whitewashing Vladimir Putin in the Russian regime right now in the eyes of people.
So yeah, there was a very tangible effect of this. the breaking of the isolation of Putin.
And I mean, in Europe, they're doing this as well. Recently, for example, in Switzerland, Valentina Matvienko visits it, who is like the speaker of the Russian parliament. She's massively influential in the Russian government. She's actually sanctioned by Europe, by America, etc. And she got to visit Switzerland for like also some sort of summit, but it was just a summit of like female parliamentaries or something like that across the world. So this Russian official that is responsible for what is currently happening in Russia visited Europe and even got to go on stage and spread Russian propaganda for a few minutes. You know, as a Russian who left Russia and who's had issues because of his passport in the West, right? I find it absolutely hilarious and absolutely incredible. Yes, I love the fact that I have to be punished and I'm somehow responsible for what these people do, and yet they get to actually go and hang out with Western leaders, I guess. All of this is just great. Anyway, yeah, fucking embarrassing. This world is cooked, and politics are a fucking joke. That's been it for me. I don't have much more to say. We are ruled by absolute morons on every side of the world. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, though. If you guys
okay, so Vladimir, hit me up with your link to Waterfall Test. Oh my gosh. Brilliant. Amazing. Damn. You've been streaming a lot lately. Yeah, I do my best. Do my best to grind it out. Because I'm trying to go back to Ukraine. I'm trying my best. I'm doing my best. As always. For you, Vladimir. For you. Individually. Yeah.
Enjoy it, and please make sure to slap the like button. I'll see you guys in the next dystopia review of some other bullshit that's gonna happen. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, if you'd like to support me additionally, that is financially, then go over to the link down in the description and become a YouTube channel member.
Vladimir, where's my link? Where's my link, Vladimir? Did Europe chuck Trump out of our plan? The Enforcer. Apparently a very bad news source, by the way. The Enforcer. I've heard bad things. Though maybe I shouldn't say it. Oh, that person still streams? I didn't even know that Starlight or whatever what's this streamer's name again? Stardew Valley streamer. How many subs? Oh, not a lot of.
Did I forget to announce that I'm live this entire time? The entire time I went live, I forgot to announce on my Discord. I need to set up the bot to ping people.
Children, my crew, all whose safety has been compromised.
No, this person in the upper right. This person, that's actually the streamer. Called, I don't remember. Starlight or whatever. Alright, whatever.
Wait, before we take a look, give me a second.
We're looking at Waterfall Test now.
Quote, where corporate endeavor led by the Belgian King Leopold at the end of the 19th century was ostensibly aimed at terminating slavery in the region, in that instance, a veritable genocide was carried out in the name of abolishing
Oh yeah, I love how, yeah.
Slavery.
A good example of that is even the Leopold narrative. It's a popular example of some of the most horrifying abuses of colonialism with the Belgian Leopold's occupation of the Congo. But I had someone tell me the other day that apparently the rate of hands getting chopped off, which is seen as pretty emblematic of Leopold's terror, decreased drastically after Leopold took over. Because the Arab slave trade was no longer in charge.
It's pretty shocking to make such a claim and source it to, quote, somebody told me the other day. That is completely insane. A lot of energy is spent on equating the Arab and European slave trades, so as to present a more rosy view of European colonialism or to portray it as not strictly a European phenomenon. Later in the podcast, at the 22-minute mark, they talk about Arab empires having conducted their own sort of colonialism in Africa prior to European arrival. It's important to note that empire building and colonialism are not inherently the same. The Arab slave trade was different to the European one. Quote, in the Islamic tradition, slavery was perceived as a means of converting non-Muslims. End of quote. It was also very limited in scale. Quote, the export trade was relatively modest for many centuries before the 15th century, and indeed did not really expand considerably until the 19th century. Exports amounted to a few thousand slaves per year at most times. There were also clearly delineated legal processes towards emancipation for slaves in the Islamic world. Europeans transformed the existing slave trade into something altogether different in scale and purpose. The total volume of the Atlantic slave trade after European arrival surpassed 12.8 million people trafficked. The old African system of slavery, whereby people could be made dependents through war, debt, and so on, was pushed away in favor of exporting slaves into the European slave market. This transformation also made slavery and slaves far more common in African society than they previously had been. European slavery, distinctly from Islamic slavery, transformed slavery from a, quote, marginal feature of society to an important institution.
This is how dedicated I am.
Stardust. Yeah, thank you. Stardust. I don't know how Freda brings up quotes without explaining why the book was chosen.
For this job. I read statistics that 8 million people
I ran statistics
in Leopold's atrocities in the Congo. And I read other stats that the Congo's total population was 11 million at the time. And I was looking at that and I thought, that doesn't add up. It doesn't add up that Leopold killed 3/4 of the Congo's population. So I studied more, and then I realized those numbers were completely falsified by a leftist academic.
By a leftist academic, of course. Everything is falsified by leftist academics. Everything is always falsified by those nifty leftist academics. Well, what do you know?
Who the supposed leftist academic is. It's very convenient to be able to just point to a communist boogeyman in academia spinning falsehoods whenever something doesn't fit your narrative.
And the way I heard it was he was basically trying to make the colony work, and he was trying to be more European about it, and he was failing. So he eventually resorted back to a lot of the status quo.
He wanted to get very wealthy. His previous plan was to buy Taiwan, and there was this huge rubber craze in Europe due to the invention of the bicycle.
Almost correct. It was due to a slightly more significant invention, electricity. Electrification of the cities and of industry and so on and so forth required rubber. Watervoltis does mention the atrocities committed by this colonial corporation, but he leaves out a very important factor. The brutal resource extraction with all its horrible methods was motivated by short-term profits. Demand for rubber skyrocketed before supply could be established. Many places in the world can grow rubber, but it doesn't occur in the wild in all these places. Quote, the Congo witnessed an especially rapacious colonial regime also because Leopold and his advisors knew that the rubber plantations of his competitors in Southeast Asia and elsewhere in the tropical world would become productive in only a few years. Quoting Matthew Stannard from Selling the Congo, A History of European Pro-Empire Propaganda and the Making of Belgian Imperialism. Quote, Leopold himself stashed money away to hide the extent of his Congo profits. In addition to being king, Leopold was a capitalist, doing all the things a capitalist does.
I'm not going to defend Leopold, because I think ostensibly he is a horrible person, where when you remove the leftist narrative...
Wait, who are you referring to? You're referring to the creator of this video, or what? Who are you referring to? Oh, then I disagree with you. Then no, then you're wrong. He shouldn't. Because the point is to focus on the critique of what is being said by this guy and what about his going on a whole tangent about the book, what it is, what it represents, and why it's important would be just, to be quite blunt, a tangent, which would add nothing to the video and the critique. There you go. In this case, it's perfectly fine for the book just to be a source of quotes, to bolster his points. There you go. The video is not about the book. So I don't see why he should make it about the book. Source of the quotes, what about history?
The stuff that remains true is so deeply horrifying, where Leopold actually wasn't Belgian. He was an ethnic German.
I wish I was recording my live reaction to this when I watched it the first time, because this took me the fuck out. That's the most horrifying thing you could think of at that moment.
If you are a silly person, I do not want you to watch this podcast.
Sorry man, too late.
Where it's relatively unimportant to the West's historic trajectory, but it's...
He's basically bringing up quotes with little context as to what makes the book reliable other than that he chose it. yeah, you don't really have to. You don't have to justify every single book that you choose, especially when you quote dry data. Oh, this book that I'm quoting dry data from, it's super relevant as opposed to others. No, there's no need for that. Nobody does that in citation. When you write an academic paper, you just source the book. You don't really go into tangents as to why the book you chose is special, believe it or not. You don't go into tangents as to what makes the book reliable. You just cite the book. You give citation, and that's it. Are you saying that you were posing this critique towards academic papers as well, that they don't really go into what makes a book special that they chose for their PhD thesis or whatever? No, there's not always a need for that. There's not always a need for a complete introduction as to why the book's relevant. No, that's just the videos needs to be focused. That just dilutes the focus of the video, to be quite honest with you. For nothing, basically.
It's due to the left making a strategic calculation in the
Like, what were even the
mid-20th century in America that they should work with black people to get them more political power. And then
like, again, this video is not about the book. It's about criticizing these people.
Became a religious doctrine for the left, where they're like, we must support the continent with the biggest amount of black people, even if they're not that close to our American black people.
What the fuck is he talking about? Do I factor into this American perspective? It's not about that at all. It's about the long-term effects that colonialism has had on Africa and the societies therein, and about how the institutions of colonialism have adapted to the modern world. There is no shortage of wealth being drained from Africa.
But the focus of the video is dunking on people that his audience won't take seriously anyway. Yeah, probably.
Go today.
American and British journalists realized what was happening. It became a huge publicity scandal. And then the Belgian government took the Congo away from Leopold. And this is the part people forget.
I hate that people call him a historian. I hate that he had interviews when he was called a historian, actually. It's all about the amount of views. It's all about the amount of clout, subs, or whatever. And then Elon Musk looked at it and ex-tweeted, your Shifto said the actual truth.
The Belgian Congo was considered the most humane colony.
I think a few words could be spared to get his viewers interested in the books he's taking from. I don't think that's to be quite honest, I don't think that's the purpose in the slightest. I'm not even sure if I'm not even sure if the YouTuber is interested in getting people interested in the book, to be honest.
Colony in Africa after the loss of Leopold, because the Belgians overdid trying to be nice to the Congolese. The Congo was seen as the most humane governance in Africa.
Quoting from King Leopold's Ghost, reports of abuses against gatherers of wild rubber in the Congo did drop off.
Listen, this person has 87,000 views from 5 days ago, 121,000 subscribers, and doesn't care about getting people interested in the book. I care about getting people interested in the book, and I frequently talk about what the books that I read are about, and I have 1,420 subs, and the amount of people watching me now is 11. So, there you go. What I can tell you is that going into detail about the books that you're into and making people like the book is not the winning strat.
Markedly,
I don't think this person is particularly enthusiastic about the book that he is taking the quotes from, though. I think that he is literally just using them as points of data to use against the people that he criticizes.
After the Belgian takeover of 1908. In the following years, there was less news of villages burned or of women and children held hostage. Note he says less news. Continuing. There was no more officially sanctioned severing of hands. What lay behind this change, however, was not a kinder and gentler regime brought about by the reformers, but several other developments. One was a gradual shift from wild rubber to cultivated rubber. Another was the introduction of a new method of forcing people to work that drew much less protest from missionaries and humanitarians. Taxes. Harsh taxes forced people to work on plantations harvesting cash crops. Forced labor remained in place. After the First World War, copper, gold, and tin mining grew in the territory. It was legal for mine management to administer lashes. Quote, at the gold mines of Moto on the upper Uele River, records show that 26,579 lashes were administered in the first half of 1920 alone. That's half a year at a single mine complex. Quoting further, this figure was equal to 8 lashes per full-time African worker. Techniques for gathering forced labor for the mines were little different from those employed in Leopold's time. I'm not sure what his source is for the Belgian Congo being the most humane European colony in Africa. He didn't say. But I think it's absurd to say something of the sort without...
No passion, just scoring points against someone. Is that the YouTuber's right? I guess so, yeah.
Also detailing the ways in which it was still horrifying.
Also, speaking of, I've been reading that book about the Polish socialists, and I'm thinking about starting the book about Polish communists, and I'm gonna do a whole thing about it. I'm gonna do a whole thing about the Polish socialists duking it out against the Polish communists. I guess watching Wick's incredibly disappointing, let's just say, stream. No, still no Empire stream, by the way. I might tie it to the topic of the USSR as an empire. Don't worry, it all ties together.
In a lot of ways, the Muslims were colonizing Africa before the Europeans, and the Muslims would have taken a good chunk of Africa if the Europeans weren't there, because Morocco, Oman, and especially Egypt under Muhammad Ali, they were trying to carve up Africa earlier.
Right, and people don't have this in their mental model. Kind of like I mentioned, Leopold taking over slave trade from the Arabs. People didn't think of the Arabs being there. They thought of it as the Europeans kind of coming into the system.
So I mentioned this earlier, but the Islamic slave trade and outposts settled by Arabs in Africa and other regions and so on have to be viewed as a separate phenomenon to what we term, quote, colonialism. Colonialism and colonization are not the same word for a very good reason. Colonialism refers to a very specific thing. You have Arab forts and outposts across Africa, and you have European forts and outposts across Africa. One of these was the stepping stone to integrating Africa into a world-spanning colonial system. One was not. One of these stimulated capital accumulation at the heart of the developing capitalist system. One did not. One of these divided the entire world between the colonial superpowers at the time with the Treaty of Tordesillas, at a time when colonialism had barely even begun. The other did not. Colonialism is a modern phenomenon, intrinsically linked to the development of world markets, globalization, and therefore capitalism. All of these colonial waves that led to these developments came crashing out of the colonial metropole of Western Europe. At most, one could call these Arab conquests and so on proto-colonial, but even that could be a misnomer because colonialism didn't flow out of the Arab world, it came out of Europe. Austin here keeps trying to portray European colonizers as inheriting an Arab tradition, instead of introducing, most often by force, new traditions of slavery, colonialism, and other forms of social organization to parts of the world that had never ever known these European systems before. He said Leopold II tried to run the colony in a, quote, more European manner, but failed, and by implication reverted to an Arab way of running it. In the period of colonialism that's being discussed, the imperialist scramble, colonialism took on new characteristics also wholly separate from the old Islamic expansions of centuries prior, and the slave trade that had existed in Africa. Quote, during the fifth colonial wave, the colonial or imperial claimants developed a new doctrine of colonial expansion and agreed on it. Now it was the demonstrable existence and operation of the colonial state that was to be the marker of possession, a claim that would entitle
A moment, I'm gonna go to the toilet, okay? Let's calm down for a bit. Also, let's not forget to press like, etc, etc, etc. Press like on this stream. Alright? And invite your friends, colleagues, and spouses and pets to this stream to bolster the numbers of people viewing. Bolster the numbers of the viewers. Be right back. Oh my god, what a joke. What a joke timeline we're living in. Well, what if autists of this world are considered, I don't know, respectable historians?
To lawfully exclude its competitors. The colonial state had to be in place, and it had to be demonstrably shaping the economy and the social life of the colony. Colonialism now became an exercise in international peer review. The colonial state was a new and powerful transformer of the lives of the colonized. It relocated, adjudicated, allocated.
Sometimes the genocider of the colonized. Look, German Empire.
Repressed.
Or the British Empire, for that matter.
Educated, and most importantly, it exacted tax and other tributes. Quoting from the next page, the lives of the colonized populations were now being transformed like they had never been before. Historians do something called periodization, whereby they divide the past into distinct periods with specific defining characteristics. The defining characteristics of the colonial period are not present in the Arab conquests that are being mentioned here.
Like with the whole mouse utopia thing, which you know is one of the biggest themes of the YouTube channel I have, is like the second people leave grinding poverty, they stop doing anything interesting. You had to have a society where almost all Europeans lived in poverty to get them to conquer the world and have the Industrial Revolution and invent science. And it's hard for us to understand. I think a lot about how for most eras of human history, life was seen as relatively cheap.
This is kind of a strange thing to say, and in fact history demonstrates that it's actually quite the opposite. Grinding poverty traps you and prevents you from doing much more beyond survival. The people inventing these medicines, spearheading these scientific advances and so on, were largely not poor and abused peasants, but highly educated people from the middle class and up. Virtually every major development in human social organization has come as a direct result of advancements leading to more efficient production, which frees up labor hours to be spent on other things. He's not just talking about history here, he's leveraging a critique against contemporary society, which...
Would you play the Battlefield 6 beta? I would, but I think the beta's ended, so...
views as soft, presumably. He's saying back then you had less to lose because your life was meaningless, so you'd take greater risks. He's saying now you have so many comforts you're not going to take risks. Your life is less cheap now. In the present day, a great many people live in grinding poverty already. These people lack access to education, which could unlock much of their potential. They lack the safety net to be able to experiment, fail, and repeat that process without risking their livelihood. The person working 2 minimum wage jobs to pay down their medical debt is unlikely to find the cure for cancer.
Black people are not indigenous to South Africa. They only came pretty briefly before the Europeans did, where they were settlers from further north.
I bet Elon Musk loved this one. This is not what the word indigenous means. And he later does call these very same, quote, black people the natives, which could have been a slip of the tongue, or he's operating on differing definitions of these words. Indigeneity is often misconstrued as the people who originally came from that land, which is an unworkable definition, because we all came from somewhere. A whole society and its population didn't spawn somewhere. Before now, there was a past, a history. That history led to the now. It's the things that happened in that history that make one person indigenous and another not. Quote, indigenousness is an identity constructed, shaped, and lived in the politicized context of contemporary colonialism. The communities, clans, nations, and tribes we call indigenous peoples are just that, indigenous to the lands they inhabit, in contrast to and in contention with the colonial societies and states that have spread out from Europe and other centers of empire. Note that this definition specifically allows for non-European colonizers or non-white colonizers. One example would be the Japanese. Quoting Colonialism: A Global History. The natives are only natives in relation to those who were born elsewhere. The indigenous peoples are only indigenous in relation to exogenous settlers and so on. This is obviously not to deny that all these collectives existed in themselves prior to the colonial encounter. They existed and often thrived, but not as participants to an unequal relation that reconstituted them. In other words, the appearance of the European...
And then Lucy going to become another transhumer being accused of using hacks. What do you mean?
colonizer is what made these people indigenous, because what defines the indigenous is their relationship to the colonizer. Veracini actually mentions what Voltaire is doing here in his book Settler Colonialism.
Yes, I do have this video set up.
A theoretical overview. Quote, at times the indigenous community's very indigeneity is questioned. Black South Africans were thought to have entered the settler space after the Boer treks of the 1830s, and in a different context, but in a similar fashion, Palestinians have also been represented as non-indigenous to Palestine. More generally, indigenous peoples, even Australian Aborigines, are frequently seen as, quote, lost tribes coming from somewhere else.
The entire native population of South Africa, or 90%, died off due to diseases. So the Dutch started settling their own men in South Africa. And it's more useful to see South Africa as like a Canada or America or Australia, this settler colonial society, where the Dutch had to populate and settle it. And interestingly, South Africa could have ended up being majority white in a lot of different timelines.
I'd love for him to explain why they, quote, had to populate and settle it, but instead he goes down a tangent about how he made an alternate history video about how South Africa could have been majority white, which I'm not interested in. I think he might be thinking of these places as completely depopulated and in need of bringing in external manpower for the places to function, which I don't think was the case. If it was, we'd probably have seen different demographics in South Africa, with white people making up more than 7% of the population. I do quite like the fact that he correctly points out that Canada, Australia, South Africa, and so on are settler colonies, though.
In South African politics today, there's this huge dynamic where the ANC wants, or the African National Congress, which are basically a communist party, they're trying to take the farmland away from the whites, which is one of the most potentially disastrous decisions possible.
What he's referencing is the African National Congress's land reform, which is what sparked Elon Musk's accusation of white genocide, which eventually led Donald Trump to offer refugee status to any white South Africans who wanted to flee the country. Only 59 Afrikaners actually resettled in the US under this program. According to the BBC, the white minority comprises 7% of South Africa's total population, but owns 72% of the country's farmland. Additionally, the ANC are far from communist. And then, for some reason, his Libertarian Party co-host, with a Rick and Morty painting in the background, starts going on about his good friend Rhodesian Mike.
Cool. And I had a good friend, Mike, I'm forgetting his last name, but I worked with him a bit in Indonesia. He was monitoring a rose plantation. He was Rhodesian, and he fought in the war back in the day in the helicopter squads, and he got shot in the head. Real crazy, intense war. They were really fighting hard, and he really believed in it, and he was really sad about it, still to this day. So yeah, it's painted as like a white apartheid state, but it was, really a civil war, and most of the people making up the infrastructure and fighters, not all the helicopter squads of the Rhodesian army, were local.
Of course, the majority of the army in the Civil War on both sides is going to be black. The white settler population only accounted for 5% of the country's population, at least according to the CIA, who I think you can trust on this one. Now granted, this is from 1976, so a handful thousand middle-class whites had already left the country, which is not statistically insignificant when the white population at this time numbers only 277,000. 60% of these white people were immigrants who arrived in the country in the post-World War II period from South Africa and the UK. The poor treatment of the African population by the recently arrived white minority very clearly spurred nationalist momentum and led to the inevitable civil war over the fate of what was to become Zimbabwe. Educated African elites had naively wanted to work with a white minority in order to...
I know a person from Zimbabwe. I met a person recently from Zimbabwe.
Gain some concessions and rights they believed were afforded to them. Quote, "This is clear evidence that they were not, as yet, seeking to overthrow colonial rule in order to replace it with one man, one vote, but were merely asking to be governed well and to be accorded rights and privileges that they thought were due to them as, quote, civilized men and women. It is therefore conceivable that had the white establishment opened its doors more widely to the educated elite, the rise of militant African nationalism might have been delayed considerably. It is partly because of the establishment's refusal to promote, quote, equal rights for every civilized man, that the African educated elite became more radicalized and turned to militant nationalism. In 1964, Britain set forth a list of principles that must be adhered to, the sixth of which, no independence before majority rule, was critical in leading Rhodesia to unilaterally declare independence. Independent Rhodesia was a country whose very existence was born out of a desire to maintain white minority rule.
Yeah, let's skip around.
This poor boy from Britain.
His family were middle-class land and business owners. They were quite comfortable. His dad was a clergyman, and his brothers went to fucking Eton, which is where the children of Tory families go to learn how to become evil in preparation of becoming Prime Minister of Britain.
Oh my God.
Rhodes was racist even for the era. He was considered insanely racist even for the time. And he was part of all these right-wing British associations. I will judge him for that. But at the same time, on a Nietzschean level, he is somewhat of an admirable figure for this singular guy doing the empire building. It's interesting to see it as a manifestation of great man history.
I just don't know what to say.
The birth rate is crashing faster than any computer models we have. And this is the friggin' elephant in the room. If I had a button where I could drop something on national news every day, it would be the birth rate is crashing so fast that mankind's population is going to completely plummet.
Sociologists...
That's stupid. I'm sorry. That's not...
Schilk out of the University of Tübingen links this birth rate hysteria to a decadence narrative that frequently reoccurs throughout history in reactionary movements. And he explicitly calls this out as an obsession of Elon Musk's, quote...
That is just stupid. Why are there so many Eastern Europeans who are up so late? What Eastern European apart from me is up so late? Apart from the ones in my chat right now.
Daily social media activism. Quote, "All these ideas rest on a cyclical perception of time, rise and fall, blossom and decay, apocalypse and palingenesis, meaning a national or ethnic rebirth. In my research, I've analyzed hundreds of German and French neo-fascist magazines. In the end, the data..."
Because I'm an awesome streamer and they want to watch me? What do you mean? They're not traitors. They're not class traitors like you are.
Was the same endless repetition of decadence and apocalypticism.
That's why.
I dubbed it conservative crisis narratives. This is Oswald Spengler Decline of the West type stuff, and as longtime viewers know, What Voltaiste has brought up Spengler on more than one occasion. What Voltaiste has brought up innumerable conservative crisis narratives over the years we've watched him, from the risk of an American Civil War to the incel revolution. Schilk, citing American anthropologist Janet Whiteman, argues that these narratives, quote, "cannot be taken as a description of a historical situation, nor can it be taken to be a diagnosis of the status of history. Instead, it is a necessarily political denunciation." Quote, "Century with really ugly aesthetics."
European colonialism in Africa was mostly done for ego reasons. And this is something people struggle
with. Ego reasons? What?
with, because we have been forced to be Marxists. We're forced to have the Marxist materialist worldview.
Yes, sir, we are winning. In all seriousness, the reason
What the fuck?
are, quote, forced to be Marxist is that the contributions to the field of history by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels have been immensely helpful to our understanding of history, something you have to admit regardless of your political persuasion. Material factors are empirical and quantifiable. They easily form the basis of historical narratives without necessitating huge leaps in logic or strange vibes-based commentary. Materialist
Strange vibes commentary. You mean like what if old hissed?
analysis just works. There's of course room for a whole host of methods and approaches, but this is useful. And materialist analysis isn't incompatible with the idea of a quote ego-based scramble for Africa either, though that's also not really what happened. In fact, what he presents as something that can't really be understood through a materialist lens really easily can be, if you just get your facts in order. Think back to our discussion about Leopold's Congo Free State. What sort of driving material factors can one
Oh, you're one of those people, Conrad. Poland's not Eastern European, it's Central European. Whatever. It's Eastern European, get over yourself.
identify there? Well, for Leopold, for one, there's the rubber profit, which he went to great lengths to extract and then subsequently hide. Why was the rubber extraction so brutal and extensive? Because his competitors were setting up rubber plantations, and so his virtual monopoly would soon be taken from him. He had very little time to get the money he wanted. It wasn't ego that caused the scramble for Africa. At the Berlin Conference, a new internationally recognized method for colonization was established, which set the prerequisite for an internationally recognized exclusive claim to a territory, an effective colonial governance. Then you had effectively locked out your potential enemies from attaining that
I knew it would get you.
territory. This means you have a real material motivation to seek out and take possession of territories which may not otherwise be of any benefit to you, because you
Colonialism was purely vibe-based. What about history? True, it was. It's an ego-based project.
Want to deny your enemies access to it in case it would benefit him. It wasn't motivated by ego, it was competition over something which was in limited supply. This is
No, it was ego.
material analysis. Once the colonies had all been gobbled up, the empires began to challenge each other's claims to snap colonies out from under each other's nose. Quote,
Germany was very sad because it didn't have many colonies.
a new global era of protectionism and tariffs meant that exclusive access to raw materials and markets, and exclusive outlets for excess capital, were now essential.
We are stuck in this mental model that the Europeans had to colonize Africa because they wanted to exploit it. But the reality is that Africa had negligible importance to the Europeans.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You keep telling yourself that it had negligible importance. You keep telling yourself that, buddy. You let's go.
In the late 1800s. For British foreign trade at the start of World War I, the British Empire's at its peak, Africa combined less than 1% of their foreign trade. And this is something people think that, oh, the Western European economies were completely dependent on their colonial empires. No, only 15% of Britain's foreign trade was with the empire. Only a handful of colonies in Africa turned a profit.
Right. I have a way to explain that to the modern audience, which is they did it
Oh
for
my
the
God.
memes.
I really intensely dislike it when people view the peoples of the past as these irrational actors not operating off of concrete and identifiable motivations.
Yeah, it was all about the memes and ego. What the fuck?
Infantilizing the people of the past right now. Their argument that European colonizers didn't really benefit much from colonizing Africa seems to rely on the idea that they just did that for no reason, which is not a strong argument. Also note how non-specific he is about the timeframes and metrics for importance. He uses foreign trade as a metric for the profitability or usefulness of colonies, but is that the only metric? When he says only select colonies turn a profit, at what time? When? What's the time frame for profit? Was it short-term profit or was it long-term profit? The profitability of a colony could vary greatly over time, being immensely profitable in the short term and unprofitable in the long term, or vice versa. If you extract a lot of short-term profits, that can be reinvested somewhere else, meaning the colony might still be unprofitable, but you still somehow are profiting off of what you got from the colony. Furthermore, he's neglecting to mention who's profiting. This is an era where capitalism really kicks into high gear. These profitable ventures, these industries were privately owned, or at least a lot of the time. Capitalists made a killing on bringing new consumer goods to European markets from these colonies. We've already talked about Leopold's rubber and what Voltaire talked about Cecil Rhodes' diamonds. Of course, the underdeveloped peripheral colonies make up a smaller portion of the colonial empire's economy. They largely don't have the electrified factories and so on that the colonial metropole has. But that colonial periphery still supports a whole host of other economic activity in the colonial metropole. Rubber was extracted in Africa in order to build electrified factories in Europe that improved production in Europe, not in Africa. Coffee and tea was farmed on the cheap in colonies in order to be processed and sold to European buyers by European companies at higher rates of profit. As mentioned, this was a time of protectionism and tariffs, which meant a lot of these raw resources that were vital to much European economic activity could become debilitatingly expensive if you had to import it across a trade barrier. And as we've also mentioned, the investment into Africa to build infrastructure and so on wasn't just to support resource extraction, it was to legitimize your claim to said colonies, due to the new international framework for colonialism. You can waffle on about how these countries were of no benefit to Europe, and if that were the case, which it's not, it would paint Europeans in an even worse light. Why did we install these brutal and repressive regimes if you had nothing to gain? Did we
memes and ego.
just decide to ravage vast swaths of the world, quote, for the memes, as his co-host says? I don't think so. The Global South was exploited for gain, and this exploitation hampered the Global South's development. The Global South was exploited for gain. Surplus was being extracted from Africa instead of being put to use in developing it.
So whatever rubber company gets in because they got the British military to subsidize a little bit of a sortie, they're getting most of the benefit, not the actual colonial people back home.
He's very close to getting it. He just forgets that the people who are benefiting, the people who own that rubber company, are actually, quote, from back home. The way he's speaking about this makes it sound like he would have preferred a different sort of colonization, not for the profit of private companies, but for the benefit of an ethnic or national community, which I think historically has led us down some very dark paths. But I digress.
So we came up with this excuse, which is that, hey, this is the white man's burden. We're actually helping them. We're not stealing. Like, we're providing them infrastructure and all these other things. And overall, benefiting their society, which justifies us looting it, basically.
This part is so funny because for a moment I thought he was starting to become super woke, but then he says this.
If it was profitable, they could hire a little private army and set it up. But they're using the government to subsidize their activity. That's not benefiting the people. They need an excuse. White man's burden. It's the same exact concept as white privilege, where it's not something to an excuse to alleviate guilt. White privilege is specifically meant to generate guilt. It's a guilt-generating mechanism to justify government money going to bridges and infrastructures and schools in the South Side instead of the Congo or wherever.
I definitely think Austin is more racist than What a Voltist, because What a Voltist says,
and the Ethiopians wiped out an Italian field army at the Battle of Adoma, which completely shocked Europe, because again, the Europeans didn't think the Africans could physically beat them.
And Austin's response is to go, okay, but maybe there's something to that. What if they only won because they were fighting Italians?
Right, it's always a question. Was it the Africans or was it because the Italians are so bad? It's like...
Is that they were empires, and empires are always brutal. And there's a great book called The Rule of Empires, and it goes through imperial history. And the thesis of the book is that all empires are basically the same. It compares the Roman conquest of Britain, the French conquest of Italy, the British conquest of Kenya and India. And the thesis is that all empires basically exist to prioritize the conquerors over the conquered. And that's the way things are. And you saw that in Africa, where the Europeans did oppress the Africans.
I don't really understand how he can square this thesis, which he so clearly agrees with his claim that European empires put more money into Africa than they got out of it. Why would the conqueror not prioritize themselves over the conquered, as he says? It feels like there's a right-wing narrative that he's very sympathetic to that's in conflict with the facts that he also knows. It might also be that he was being a little purposefully misleading, because it very well could be that more money was put into Africa than came out of it, being that Europeans only really started extracting taxes to any meaningful degree at the tail end of the history of colonialism. Instead, they were extracting natural resources and slaves before then. So in that sense, more cash went in than came out. But I think his original intent was to portray Europeans as putting more wealth into Africa than they got out of it.
It was an empire, but the Europeans were operating with more moral constraints and more guilt than most empires in history.
Yeah, of course. In fairness, in that case, I believe the consensus is that the Ethiopians performed really well and the Italians made a lot of strategic errors.
Right, and that's when it gets back to an interesting theme like you were talking about with South Africa and Rhodesia. It doesn't matter how nice you...
The Ethiopians worked with the Russians to build artillery capabilities which the Italians hadn't planned for.
You are, or how good you are. If you have to be authoritarian to secure control, that's going to create backlash, and then it can break down. So it's just, the situation is what it is, and you can see that institutional legacy pretty clearly, and that's...
It's incredible watching two guys who are at the very least a little racist, trying to navigate simultaneously thinking slavery and oppression is wrong, and also thinking Rhodesia and the British Empire were kind of cool. Someone I know said Rudyard has a woke soul that's trapped in a chud mind, which I thought was really funny.
From almost all Africans,
woke soul trapped in a chud mind.
They were under the same governance before and after colonialism. And a lot of them were slave states, where in most African kingdoms, a majority of the population were slaves.
This is simply not true. As we've discussed, the colonialism of the imperialist scramble around the late 1800s and early 1900s completely transformed these societies. We've also discussed the point about slavery. The European slave trade made slavery far more prevalent across Africa than it had been ever before. The reason these countries in Africa had so many slaves prior to being colonized by Europeans is because Europeans integrated them into a transatlantic slave trade. Quote, where slaves had once been an incidental element in society, they now became common. And another quote, slavery was transformed, and slave societies emerged. Europeans established and intensified slavery in Africa, and then later abolished it. These things are both true.
Is that after the World Wars, the average European realized that the African colonies didn't benefit them in any major way.
That's not true.
They gave up the empires because they were a drain on Europe's resources. And after the war, the Europeans lost the will to empire.
There was a whole host of reasons for decolonization, and for every instance of decolonization, there were different prevailing factors at play. It was not, by and large, because Europe decided the colonies were a drain, but a different sort of value proposition. It was clear, as the British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan proclaimed in 1960 in South Africa, that the wind of change was unstoppable. Anti-colonial movements were developing all over the colonized world, and, quote, if the African nationalists were more inclined to forcefully demand independence in the 1950s, the imperial powers were less inclined to resist all calls for independence. As mentioned, a whole host of other factors played into this, and the Western political landscape, of course, was very important as well. The potential cost of suppressing these independence movements was also, of course, factored in. But decolonization did not start from the top. It started from the bottom, and the colonizer empires were responding to calls for independence. And many of these decolonization projects eventually led to foreign military interventions in the former colonies to once again protect the interest of colonizer nations.
Like Vietnam, for example.
Or as part of the superpower competition of the Cold War. Even if empires like the British and French decolonized for real practical material reasons, like the cost of maintaining the empire becoming too great, it was still a decision made with reluctance. Quote, the imperial powers conceded independence where there were no strategic resources, no strategic implications, no communists or socialist movements ready to take over, and no settlers. But the imperial powers bitterly resisted decolonization everywhere else. When they conceded defeat, they always tried to secure concessions.
They decided to give up Africa, but until very recently, the French kept West Africa as a pseudo-colony called the Franc-Afrique, where they controlled the currency. And France, a few years ago, France was fighting about half a dozen wars across Africa at the same time. And the French just recently gave up the Franc-Afrique, which shows how recent the effects of colonialism were.
Once again, it's like he's desperately trying to cling to these right-wing narratives that he knows deep in his heart are wrong. He talks about how the African colonies had little bearing on the West, but then at the end of the same podcast episode, he talks about how we can see colonialism before our very eyes still today, with France maintaining a very colonial relationship to West African nations still to this day. We're mostly done with the history. Now I'm going to talk more about my opinions. As I've hopefully demonstrated, these guys don't have the greatest grasp on what they're talking about. They do say things that are correct, of course, but a lot of their analysis is muddied by their gripes with leftist academia and all those other strange things they bring up out of nowhere. This is a relatively middling history podcast in my opinion. So what led Elon Musk to endorse it? Why is the world's richest man listening to this stuff?
Probably South African genocide narrative.
Who's the largest political streamer on Twitch? You'd be forgiven for assuming it's the left-wing political streamer Hassan Piker, who gives talks at universities, is interviewed on news shows, and used to work in news media.
After all, there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. Thank you.
And you're over here chirping all the way from fucking London about Palestine and doing a both sides are fucking fine type bullshit.
It's actually this guy.
Oh, I'm not going to cry a fucking river.
No.
Genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. They are not the same as us. They come from...
Yeah, he is the biggest political streamer. Yep.
An inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
Asmongold, a former World of Warcraft streamer who only cleaned his house for the first time in years because he got banned for making what I at least perceived as genocidal comments about Palestinians. He's nominally a gaming streamer, but a lot of his content revolves around peddling various right-wing narratives. There's probably an appeal to these kinds of guys, an appeal I'm probably tapping into myself as well. My production value isn't the best. I sometimes say things I probably shouldn't say on Twitter. I'm just a guy. There's a degree of authenticity to it. What Voltist's eccentricity, for better or worse, makes him charming and seem authentic. You know there's no scriptwriting room behind the stuff he does, no fleet of professional editors, and he has the aesthetic trappings of also just another guy. Maybe saying things none of the well-groomed talking heads on TV are saying. Aesthetically, maybe it feels a little punk rock, if punk rock had its brain irreversibly altered by a South American psychoactive drug. This sort of content has the aesthetics of something that's far from the halls of power, like just another guy. But as we know, What Voltist isn't far from the halls of power. He's listened to and endorsed by what is probably the richest man in the history of mankind. I think whatever sort of vibes What Voltist gives off, Elon Musk is into it. Elon Musk portrays himself as someone speaking truth to power, a punk rocker and eccentric rebel, despite again being the richest man in the world who had the ear of the President of the United States. But at the heart of their politics, there is no contradiction between the talking heads on TV and the insane stuff What Voltist is saying. The core of their politics is the same. It's far-right conservatism peddling crisis narratives, defending capitalism and the rich, and tearing down workers and worker movements. This brings me to the second part of why I think these people are so successful compared to other guys who are clearly better at this than them. Up until 1981 in Norway, the government had a monopoly on mass media technology like radio and TV. In 1981, the new right-wing government opened the doors to private for-profit actors to provide multiple channels on TV.
He did it. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. He finally cleared his house for the...
For-profit actors tend to have politics that align with their profit motive, regulations, and...
Don't worry, it's going to be back to normal sooner or later.
Systems of oversight can assure these right-wing media corporations behave to an extent. This has largely worked in Norway with TV. Such regulation is virtually non-existent in the social media sphere. Elon Musk's generative AI model Grok was recently deemed too woke and biased to the left. Musk tried to correct it, and it led Grok to declare itself Mecha Hitler and post-Holocaust denial. Who owns your social media? It's shareholder investors, also known as capitalists. Examples of this would be YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, or Reddit. Sometimes they're majority owned by one man, such as Twitter, which is owned by Elon Musk, or Truth Social, which is owned by the President of the United States of America. Alternative social media includes things like Blue Sky, which is still a for-profit corporation, but a so-called public benefit corporation, who, instead of maximizing shareholder value, have a responsibility to balance this against the public good. Blue Sky had 10 million active users in the last 90 days. Compare that to some of the other platforms. According to Stacey Jo Dixon, Facebook has 3 billion monthly active users, YouTube has 2.5 billion, Reddit has 606 million, Twitter 506 million. Truth Social has something like 6 million monthly active users as of
Interesting. I actually expected Twitter to have more users. Interesting.
24. That feels comparable to Blue Sky's 10 million over 90 days. It's harder to get statistics for these two websites, and I don't know how reliable these stats are. But it's striking to me that the social media platform dedicated exclusively to the sort of American right-wing politics espoused by its owner Donald J. Trump has a comparable user base to the global website that's not totally for-profit. And mind you, it's still a for-profit website. The best we're getting is a balance between profit and responsibility. The digital landscape is a world owned by the right wing. The workplaces are owned by for-profit investors, and the politics of private profit are the politics of the right. When people like Woodward Hiss talk about a leftist UN world order, understand how silly they're being. When people talk about how the left runs the media, they're lying. Especially when people like Elon Musk, a man who owns the media, says it. The politics espoused by people like me and you are diametrically opposed to the people who own the places where we speak to one another, whereas the politics espoused by people like Woodward Hiss are supportive of the owners. The roads to the halls of power are a lot shorter for those backing the people in power. It's a lot harder for those who want to see the people in power overthrown. We have to acknowledge that fact, but there's no reason to despair. Though the right wing thrives in the media ecosystem of its own creation, the actual...
See? This is how you say what Zanderhol talks about without being...
material base of their politics, that is, the people who own the factories, shares in AI startups, and so on, are very few compared to the people who do wage labor to survive. The vast majority of the user base on social media are workers, people who have very different material motivations from the shareholders and capitalists out there. On social media, you are the content from which the shareholders profit. If they push the majority of people away, then there's no profit. So even though the right owns these platforms, they have to allow the politics of the vast majority, that is, left-wing politics, space to breathe. So just like how the owner has to put a bunch of workers close to one another on the factory floor, so too does the owner of the platform have to let regular people talk to one another. And that gives us the opportunity to talk about things he doesn't like. Thank you for watching, and special thank you to the patrons.
Okay, that's it. I guess we've streamed for a bit. I'm gonna see you tomorrow. It's gonna be an amazing time. We've streamed for like 3 hours, 50 minutes. So I'm gonna raid you to someone that hopefully in the future will raid me back. I keep hope that someone will raid me back in the future and we're gonna have a fantastic time together. Who shall I raid? Mercado Gaming. Yeah? Mercado Gaming. There you go, Mercado Gaming. I'm gonna see you. Bye-bye, lovely viewers. It has been nice. It has been fun. Wonderful times together. We'll see you. And good night, or good morning, or good afternoon, depending on your time zone. It's gonna be cool. Bye-bye. Let's see if there's anybody who... Okay, goodbye. Goodbye.